Okay, we're,
All righty, we are awake.
that system, the system works. Abs- Comment, I'm sure.
On. Present.
Present.
Honorable Samantha.
She's
I
on the
mean-
way.
Honorable Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
Honorable Ulysses J. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Our first item will be parametrics grant writing services update.
Okay, and you can check Mr. Whitmore's. Okay, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Avery and City Council, as citizens. I would like to bring to you the first item for the work session is our parametrics. Ms. Kennedy Shannon is here to present to us, provide us a high overview of successful grants that pursuits, reasons for unsuccessful grant awards, challenges encountering when pursuing grants, and a plan of action if given the opportunity to work with the City of Fairburn in fiscal year 2025. Based on the needs of the city, our paramedics suggest focusing on infrastructure and prioritizing grants for transportation, water, sewer, upgrades, and public safety facilities. Additionally, it's recommended that the funding priorities are aligned with long-term infrastructure needs, that the city partner with neighboring jurisdictions for stronger joint applications. So without further ado, I'll bring Ms. Kennedy Shannon up and she can explain all of our parametrics, what has happened over the past year, and the opportunities that we have available for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Yes, so I wanted to take an opportunity to come and just give you guys an update on what we've done over the past year. I know we do have a contract that's potentially up, and so we wanted an opportunity to come and answer any questions that you all may have. So I'm going to start off. I assume I just click the next one. With our successful grants, right? So the two that we have here, we applied for a Fulton County Art and Culture grant in the amount of $50,000, but we were ultimately awarded $22,500. And then we applied for a $1.5 million grant, but we were awarded $1.1 million through a congressional set-aside. So I was able to get confirmation that that congressional set-aside has made its way into the House bill. So, I mean, I can't say it's guaranteed, but I've never seen a congressional set-aside not be funded once recommended and makes its way into the House bill. So we're looking at about $1.1 million in grants that we've been able to secure for you all over this past year.
That's great. Thank you.
Now we go to unsuccessful grants. So we wrote for Georgia Transportation Infrastructure Bank a grant for $2 million. Unfortunately, we were not selected. They only focused on low-interest loan requests at the time. Those were the only applications that they funded, and our application didn't meet that. We weren't trying to do any low-interest funds. We were trying to get a $2 million grant for the Duncan Park Road extension. SAFER, which is Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. We applied for $2.4 million. However, we were not successful in that. 80% of their applications were denied. So it was extremely competitive. And so unfortunately, we weren't selected for that. Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act, we applied for $183,672, and only one Georgia agency was funded, unfortunately, in that round. All of these were very strong applications, we felt. It's just that this is a very competitive climate right now for grants. And I'll go over some of the challenges that your community faces with grants, but one of the biggest ones is that Fairburn, your size is small, but they don't consider you to be rural, they consider you to be urban. So you kind of fall within a gray area of grants in that you don't have a very large population, but you're not necessarily considered rural as well. So again, just to reiterate some of those reasons for being unsuccessful, Again, with Georgia Transportation, it was a decline due to focus on low-interest loans, not grants. For the Energy Efficiency and Conservative Block Grant, we scored highly, but we missed the final cut. However, our application remains on the waiting list. For the SAFER, again, they had an 80% of applications who applied were denied, unfortunately. For the Historic Preservation Fund, Fairburn needs to complete its certified local government application to access these additional funds. And that's another hindrance to some of the grants, is that we don't have that designation yet. I got an update today that you guys are working on that designation, and I think you guys have to appoint a board in order to complete that final step. But until that's done, it takes us out of the running for a lot of grants that we otherwise would have been able to apply for. And just some general grant observations. Grants often favor projects with additional partnerships, geographic advantages, matching funds, and limiting competitiveness. So having some regional projects with some other cities, with your neighbor cities, would make some of these grant applications a lot stronger, I think, as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, a quick question on Historic Preservation Fund. Did we not know that we had to have that certification before we went after the grant?
We did. If I'm not mistaken, I think we discussed that the last time I was here, and that the city's been moving towards it. It's not a quick process, from my understanding. We started this process in January, and we've been working our way through it. So we were aware of this when we took the contract. If I'm not mistaken, I brought this to the council's attention before, that this would be something we would have to get in order to be able to seek some additional grants.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to provide an update, a little bit more of a detailed update. We've been working through that process for much of 2024. Ms. Abernathy is heading up that effort. It is a designation that comes through the Department of Community Affairs at the state level. To the best of our knowledge and our research, the city has never had a certified local government certification. So this is the first time the city's been through this process. There are several steps in the process. Enforcing appropriate state and local legislation to design and protect historic properties, establishing the commission that was just referenced, maintaining a system for survey and inventory of historic properties. I won't read all of these, but there's a number of different steps in it. We are actively engaged in that process. In fact, Ms. Abernathy will be attending training, a specific training session on this in November. Our expectation is that we hope, working with DCA, we'll be able to complete this in the first quarter of 2025. Again, the city's never had this designation in the past, so this is our initial effort in doing it, but we believe we will be successful once we get through all the steps in the process.
And is it just for the Historic Preservation Fund, or are there other grants that has this certification requirement?
I believe there are other grants too, where you have to be a certified local government to apply, not just for the Historic Preservation Fund, but there are other grant funding sources as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So some of the challenges we encountered this past year, one, it's just highly competitive, right? Many of the federal and state grants are extremely competitive, such as the SAFER grant and the, I don't know what these acronyms, there's so many
I
of
was
them.
going to ask.
Clearly leading to a higher number of denials because you've got a lot of people vying for these very limited dollars, unfortunately. Another one of the things was that we had a limited number of contract hours. If you all recall, you did a very limited engagement with us. I think our total allocated amount was $45,000. And so, you know, that sounds like a lot, but in the grant writing world, it's not really a lot. Once you write, you know, 5 or 6 grants and you're taking 30, 40 hours to write that grant. But overall, I think bang for your buck, you spent 45 and got 1.1 million. I would think that we delivered on that value to you for that initial engagement. But again, those limited contract hours, the expiration of contract hours limited the ability to pursue certain large federal grants, like the charging and fuel infrastructure grant. I know there was a desire to do some charging stations here for electric vehicles, which required coordination with some of the other municipalities, and there just wasn't enough hours left in order to pursue that. Project readiness, some grants such as the Historic Preservation Fund, as we just talked about, we're not going to be able to get any of those because we don't have that designation yet. And then balancing partnerships in a city size. So partnerships are key because Fairburn, relatively small, under 20,000 people, is part of the metro area. This disqualifies you all from many of the rural grants of some of the surrounding communities that meet that definition of rural. So we can't apply for any rural designations. We have to apply for urban designations. But you're small compared to some of the other urban competitors. And they're able to deliver kind of more bang for your buck because they have a higher population, unfortunately, than you all do. So being able to demonstrate an impact on a broader population is critical for some of this funding. So that's why we kind of recommended trying to find a partner or some type of regional partner to partner with, because when you have a limited, amount of resources, you have to be able to articulate to the government, this is going to provide the best bang for the buck. This is how many people who are going to be affected. And those grant applications tend to win the day.
Another question. So population is a factor when they are really looking at who will actually qualify for the grant. So what a percentage is population on that spectrum of things they look for?
It depends on a grant. So some grants, they're only open to what they define as rural communities, and there's a definition of what a rural community is, and then some are only open to those that are considered urban communities. So there's some grants that are close to us just by way of you guys being designated urban. But then you go even further, right, and you're looking, and so if you've got grant applications and you've got an application from Atlanta, with a larger population, and you've got a grant application for Fairburn, they're going to be able to demonstrate more bang for the population, unfortunately. So your competition tends to have a higher population. And in grants, they look at that. Again, they want to look at the most bang for their buck because they only have a certain amount of money. I'm not saying that discounts any grant or every grant. It just says that we have to be very strategic of the grants we go after. As I stated before, we really should focus on infrastructure, because with infrastructure, it doesn't matter your population, right? Everything is aging. The federal government understands that it's aging, and this money is there to improve that infrastructure. So if we can focus on those type of grants, I think it throws out the window the idea that we're smaller and we have a smaller population, because at the end of the day, it's infrastructure is the basis.
Okay, so that would not be a priority for us to go after grants. That population will be a negative effect for us, right?
Correct, right. So when we look at grants like that and we think, they're looking for larger populations, then it doesn't make any sense for us to waste your money, And just for clarity, we only bill based on the grants we write you. We don't bill you every month. It's not like you get a flat bill every month whether we work or not. I'm an attorney as well. We bill you like attorneys bill you. When I'm touching a grant for your community, that's when I bill you for every hour work. So those $45,000 represents hours of work for all of the grants that we were able to write for you. It's not like a blanket monthly bill that you get whether you subscribe or not. It's actual hours that are worked. Next is just our plan of action, right? First and foremost, we want to complete that CLG application and get that process completed. This will unlock additional grant opportunities for us, as well as those historic preservation projects. We want to continue pursuing CPF funding, because that was the one we were successful with. Another thing about CPF funding is they don't really look at population either, right? They're looking at your local representative, what projects within the community can they do as a set-aside to help you? And there's been a lot of focus on infrastructure for these particular funding sources. So again, that's why we kind of stress the importance of infrastructure projects. Again, strategic partnership, seeking joint applications with nearby municipalities for some of the federal grants to strengthen your chance of success. If you've got 2 cities that are applying and you're increasing the bang for your buck, right? They've got 2 cities in these dollars, and it makes your application a little bit stronger. I'm sorry.
How would you go about getting that, the joint applications with another city in reference to what their needs are and what our needs are? How would you go about getting that done or going after?
It would facilitate a conversation to see what they have on their list for projects and what you guys have on your list for projects, and a way in which you could kind of create a joint project. So an example might be charging facilities, right? If you and your next door neighbor may say, hey, look, you guys want local charging facilities, we want local charging facility, and let's complete a federal grant together, and we can put these facilities in a way in which both cities could benefit, right? That is very attractive to the federal government when it comes to a grant application, because you've got partnership and collaboration, and you're able to assist multiple communities with that one grant. Again, think bang for your buck. So that's what our job is, to try to make as much bang for the buck in that application, to say, hey, give us a piece of these limited resources because this is going to help this many people. And if we're able to have those type of partnerships, they're very successful.
Members of council, if I remember correctly, and Harvey Stokes, actually none of the staff that was part of that is here now, I believe. The project right at the intersection of 120, at 29 and 138,
Gateway Project.
Gateway Projects, in this case, if I remember correctly, that was a joint venture between Union City and Fairburn.
Yes.
And I'm almost sure it was federal money as well.
Yes.
And so just as a reminder, most of us was up here, a lot of us, and so it's been done before. So that Gateway Project is just an example. Thank you so
Be
much.
awesome. And last, just grant review debrief. So whenever we're not funded, we like to do a debrief with the funder if they're willing to share that information with us. We want to know, how was our application? Was it a strong application? Was it just due to intense competition? Because we want to know how we can make our applications better. All of these grants are on a cycle, so they usually happen every year. So we're learning. You're not the only community that we're writing grants for, so we might be writing grants for other communities across the country. And so we learn from all of that. What, if we get someone funded, what was in their application? Like, what type of project was it? And then we also track the successful funded projects to see if there's a theme that emerges. And the theme a lot of times has been infrastructure right now. That's the word of the month, really, is to focus on those type of projects. So for future opportunities, number one, we want to focus on large infrastructure projects. So we want to prioritize grants for things like transportation, water and sewer upgrades, or public safety facilities. Those are the really popular grants right now, and those are what currently are being funded, regardless of population, if you can demonstrate a need in those categories. Some of the key grant opportunities that are coming up is some water infrastructure grants through the EPA, the EDA, and there are some state opportunities that are coming up. There's some transportation grants, the Railroad Crossing Elimination Grant, which is likely to reopen early 2025. Public safety grants, so you've got your federal fire, that's your AFG and SAFER, your COPS grant, and some other state-run highway safety programs that we could potentially apply for. And then we want to limit the smaller grants. This last year, we wrote a lot of smaller grants, and it just doesn't give you your bang for your buck, You spend that much time writing a grant, it's a $10,000 grant or a $15,000 grant, you could have spent that exact same time writing a $600,000 grant, So being able to focus on larger grant opportunities, especially with limited resources, I think is the way to go. We were able to come up with a system, but at one point in time, we were getting grant requests from departments, and we're like, well, which one do we prioritize? Which are the most important? But then we started running everything through Jamila, and we're like, hey, should we be focusing on this? And we got a system where we were able to get approval before we actually started writing grants. But department heads were like, hey, write this grant. Hey, write this grant. So we would go after some smaller grants, and it's just like, if you're going to pay us, let's go after the big grants. Let's go after the ones that provide the best return for you and your community. Again, we want to target our grant writing, so we want to fine-tune our funding priorities to align with your long-term infrastructure needs. Again, I mentioned those charging vehicle stations. I've heard that a lot in conversations, and it sounds like that's something that you guys really need. So that would be an example of that. And then again, just regional collaboration, right? Partnering with neighboring cities for stronger joint applications. That is what we think is going to be the road to success if we are selected again. And what we would focus on. So with that being said, I will open it up to any additional questions.
Members of council have a question? Mr. Whitmore, go ahead.
Can you put the slide back up, ma'am, where you were showing the various grants that you, back towards the beginning?
The successful ones or unsuccessful?
Right there, we can start right there.
Okay.
So, so how many, I know initially we talked about looking at low-hanging fruit, which means they would be the lower equivalency of grants. How many were submitted for? Did you submit for?
I feel like we submitted for a total of about 8 grants total, 8 or 9 grants.
Okay, and
It's in my full grant report. I don't have that in front of me, but
in comparison with all the other grants, because you mentioned you had your, the one that's a congressional set-aside right
Yes.
now,
Mhm.
which is initially 1.5, but it's down to 1.4. You said there's
1.1.
no guarantee to that. Can you explain to me in a little more detail what the expectations are based on your experience if we're looking at that particular grant possibly coming through?
so I'm 99% sure it comes through. I've never seen a congressional set-aside not come through. But keep in mind that this becomes part of the budgeting process for Congress, and we are well aware of the political climate that we're in right now. And so I can't speak with 100% certainty. I do know that it was in the House bill that was submitted for approval. And again, I've never, in the 20 years I've been doing this, I've never seen a congressional set-aside not be funded. It's kind of common courtesy among Congress to approve projects for each other because you know your community better than anybody else, and they all get the benefit of having these set-asides. So I think it's pretty certain that this grant will be funded. I would be extremely shocked if it was not. And again, we contacted the Congress reps people Friday, and they confirmed that it was in the House bill that was submitted, so.
Would you happen to have that House bill number?
Actually, I do.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could add a little additional information, if it's okay?
Sure.
So part of what we've learned through this process, in addition to everything that was just described, and it works similarly at the state level, in addition to Congressman Scott's office, who we initiated this process with, we are reaching out to all of the members of the congressional delegation across the state
That was my
so
next
that they're
question.
all aware, because our understanding from talking to several congressional staffers is that it is commonplace that even though it didn't originate in their congressional office, and this kind of works irrespective of party as well, that once they're aware there's Georgia funding in a bill, they try to protect it as best they can. Again, no guarantees. I just wanted to mention that we've taken that additional step so that as it goes through the budgeting process, all Georgia congressional representatives will know that there's a Georgia funding item specifically for Fairburn.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up. I wanted to make sure that that was being done because there's power in numbers,
Absolutely.
number one. And number two, if we have our representatives here from Georgia reaching out to our federal, that also helps as well. And that was going to be another question I had for you, but it's apparently that's a positive.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And it's in the appropriation bill. I've got it. I can email it to you along with the page number.
Okay, thank you.
It's like multiple hundreds of pages, but it's on page 212, so.
So you started working on grants for the city of Fairburn when?
Is it January of '04? I mean, so 2024?
Okay, and you submitted for a total of how many grants?
I think between 8 or 9 grants, I think we submitted.
You have the. 11? Yeah, it's on here.
Is it 11? Okay. Okay, I was about to say, I think I gave a report. I don't know off the top of my head. My
I'm having problems with my.
That's
digital,
okay. My
so
apologies.
that's why I'm asking.
I should know that.
Okay.
They run together. I got so many grant writing clients, but yeah, I think overall for this year we went after some really good grants. Again, it's extremely competitive, but like I said, I'm 99.9% sure you guys are going to get that congressional set aside. So.
Okay, and the last question I had for you was, yes, your grant review debriefs.
Yes.
Okay, have you attended any to date?
So we ask the funder to provide that. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We ask every time. We've not gotten, a lot of these, we just got notice that we were not funded. So we've not had any debriefs yet, but we will have some. They tend to want to get the paperwork over for those that were funded, so they can, those are priority. And then afterward, they will provide us a debrief, and we'll provide that to you as well, so you guys can see why we ultimately weren't funded. A lot of times, again, it just referenced very stiff competition, unfortunately.
And then one additional question is when you're talking about neighboring city partnerships, and we talked about EV charging stations. Okay, can you give me some ideas of other mutually agreed upon neighboring projects in a partnership?
Sure. We see a lot of times with transportation, if there's a shared road or something that kind of goes between two communities, a bridge that goes between two communities, railroad tracks that they want to kind of get rid of, wherever there's some infrastructure where it's shared, we tend to see those type of collaborations. There's even collaboration on some of the social projects, right? You can even do it, you know, with a neighboring city to do some type of senior home repair program or rental assistance program where people from both cities are able to partake in this particular program, and you kind of kill two birds with one stone by having two communities. So it's always good to partner on a grant application. It just makes your application stronger wherever feasible. But those are some infrastructure projects. Also, maybe some water projects where you've got some water pipes that start in one community and go under another community, and you guys want to remove lead-based pipes or replace some type of wastewater infrastructure that may join two cities or two communities. That's another example where a joint partnership would be beneficial.
Trustee Langford? Mr. City Administrator, based on the information that was shared by Ms. Shannon, have we thought about partnerships with our surrounding municipalities, and/or, if so, have we reached out to them and actually shared broad spectrum of things that we could possibly partner with?
So we are in that process now. There is one potential project at the 138 intersection that we are in conversations with Union City about early in the process to see if we can't enhance that intersection collaboratively, much in the way it was done initially. So that's the most active conversation, but that has led to the conversation that you just mentioned. What other opportunities can we have? Now, we want to expand that beyond Union City. That's the conversation that we started because they're a neighboring city. I've reached out. I had a meeting last week with the city administrator in Palmetto. We had that discussion as well. Now, those are just the two neighboring cities. Clearly, we want to reach beyond that. But when you talk about some of the projects that Ms. Shannon just mentioned that have regional impact because they're contiguous, infrastructure projects, things of that nature, obviously Union City, Palmetto would be the first options for us, though that doesn't mean exclusively just those two cities.
And then my other thought was, right now, we are still getting water from Atlanta. We have neighboring municipalities that receive water from Atlanta as well. And in looking at the infrastructure and some of the challenges that we have had, I would venture to say mainly is from their end, not our end, but still looking at various improvements that we can engage in preventive measures or in the future, not knowing what our future water source may or may not be.
It's a very excellent point, and we've taken a two-pronged approach to that. One is what you just mentioned, Mayor Pro Tem, is whatever the path forward is for Fairburn, it will require infrastructure investment that is specific to our city, whether that's connecting to other resources outside of the city, be that Atlanta or other resources. That's still going to require some investment on the part of the city. So we've started some conversations at the congressional level around what that could look like for the city of Fairburn proper. But again, much in line with what Ms. Shannon just shared, when you start talking about those types of issues, there's always a question about regional impact. And clearly we work with Atlanta, we work with our neighboring cities on water infrastructure issues. And so that's the second prong of that conversation, is having that conversation with federal funding opportunities that go necessarily beyond Fairburn so that they have more regional impact and hopefully garner more support because of that broader impact.
Even with ARC.
Yes, we've reached out to ARC and kind of an adjunct of ARC is the North Georgia Water Commission. So we've got dialogue there as well.
I have a question for my colleague. You just completed a course with.
Yes, RLI.
Okay, can you articulate if there could be some correlation there with what we're talking about as far as grants is concerned?
There's opportunity there, definitely, but one of the issues that continuously came out is that Fairburn is not at the table for many partnerships, because ARC covers the region, the slogan, one heart, and I just did not see, there's a lot of opportunity, but anytime Fairburn came up, it was, yeah, what's going on in Fairburn? We never hear from anybody at Fairburn. So as I understand, there has not been any activity between ARC and Fairburn, but the opportunity is there. Also, we have Mayor Dickens, who chairs ARC. So this doesn't have anything to do with you, but we have a huge issue with a water authority here. And one of the issues that I see in terms of partnerships is the cities that are involved. I don't see a joint effort with them having this conversation with Mayor Dickens, who is the chair of ARC, as well as ARC, period. So as you asked Mayor Pro Tem Whitmore, there's a lot of opportunity there. And we are charged, the alum are charged with identifying those problems and bringing it to the forefront with that class. And as a region, we'll be working together. So I am investing time to have conversations within RLI, but I am not the full governing body of the city of Fairburn. So we have to create those opportunities, and we have to execute on those opportunities. So one of the great opportunities, as you may know, is the LCI project. So when you said that, I knew that very well, not just from being here, but in training. They went in depth about the LCI. The other big issue that they're looking at is the housing, but not from the perspective that we have been pursuing. Aging is a big issue. The birthing is lower, and now we have higher aging in place. So there are joint efforts to do the housing as well. Of course, Habitat for Humanity was a part of the training as well. So there were a lot of people at the table from the region, even all the way down to Coca-Cola CEOs, all the way to the CEOs for the Hawks, who you really don't know that are playing a big role in making decisions in the region about infrastructure. The focus of the World Cup. Where is Fairburn when it comes to that? Because it's gonna overspill, because Atlanta does not have enough room to, so that, yeah, I don't wanna go too much in depth, but I hope you understand. Absolutely. So there is opportunity, but my role as an RLI alum is to be in the table and to be in the room, to show up and to do the project work that we've been assigned.
Okay, Mr. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir, go back.
And one more, when we speak of housing, for example, here in the city of Fairburn, we have an area that has low-income housing, okay? And it was probably, you know when it was built, Mr. Phillips? Low-income housing that we have backed by,
Don't have the specific year, Mayor Martina, I don't want to misspeak. I can find that out for you.
but where my thoughts are going to, if there's something out there with that, because I remember very vividly while traveling out in California and looking at some of the housing projects that they successfully completed. And it looks nothing like the old replicas of what we have now. So I was just curious if you have something along those lines. And the interesting thing is we do have a board was it, East Point, Mr.?
Housing board, yeah,
Sorry,
the housing board.
a housing board, so it's us, East Point, and I'm not sure who else is involved with that, but then that could mean another type of neighboring city partnership collaboration.
Absolutely. And there are funding out there for that. So one recommendation I would make to Fairburn is for you all as a council to agree and identify priorities. Because for me, it's like a water hose, all right? And I got all these great ideas coming at me, but when I'm tasked with being very judicious with your money and being able to write the most impactful grants, I need a priority list. I need to know what we need to focus our resources on, and that list can only come from you because, again, the department heads are going to keep sending me stuff. Here, write this grant, write this grant. So we need some type of priority list from the city to say, this is our priority starting with 1, 2, 3. You know, we focus on the top 3 priorities, and that gives you the most bang for your buck. So I think all of these are excellent ideas, but we want to make sure that your money goes far and that you see those results, and we're able to really focus on those larger infrastructure impactful projects.
Thank you. I'm only interested, not that I'm only interested, but the priority for me is infrastructure.
Gotcha.
Too many years have gone by and the problem continues to become more extenuating because we have not invested the money in infrastructure. So it's so for me, you know, with the infrastructure, and there are infrastructure partnerships that we can fit in with Fayetteville, Tyrone, Union City, and Palmetto. Those were some of the key cities that were targeted and representatives was at the table with RLI. So that's a priority for me. I don't see it not being. Water is a human right.
Yep.
We have, Atlanta has not made the infrastructure improvements that they should have, proposing a rate increase on the amount of water, you know, when we purchase. Then we have Fairburn's own issues here that we haven't made investment in. So I'm confident it's going to be easy that this council is going to say infrastructure. If I'm wrong, then I stand to be corrected, but I don't see any other way.
I agree.
Okay. Any other council comment?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Are you done?
No, but go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Well, my only question now is to the city administrator. I think you heard some of the conversation up here, and of course, we don't want to spin anyone's wheels, and we want the most bang for our buck. I really want that $1.1 million of that congressional set-aside, along with other grant opportunities that can address some of the more major things. And we all know what we're up against as far as getting any money from the state, right? So any opportunity that we have, and if we can really narrow down and prioritize, I think the big ticket items, especially if we have some neighboring city partnerships that can bring back big dividends for the city of Fairburn as well as our neighboring cities.
Thank you for that direction, Mayor Pro Tem. As Ms. Shannon mentioned earlier, when we initially engaged with our parametrics, it was for what we ostensibly referred to as a pilot program. It was only for 6 months. They didn't know us. We didn't know them. We wanted a chance to see, is this worthwhile effort? Is this something we should invest more in? And a resounding answer for us at the conclusion of that 6 months was absolutely yes. But we learned a few things just in 6 months. As Ms. Shannon mentioned initially, it was a fire hose approach. Everybody was so excited about having someone to help with grants that everybody was sending grants in. What we learned through that is we have to be more targeted. We have to be more specific. We have to go after the grants that give us the most bang for the buck. So we did garner some lessons from that we think will help us moving forward. Our intention is to do exactly what, again, Ms. Shannon shared, which is to have a more targeted list that this council can help to populate and inform. Clearly, we've heard infrastructure, and that is one of the things Ms. Shannon says is the more fruitful areas to pursue. And so based on the experience in the pilot program, we feel that it's given us some working knowledge to have better success moving forward. Partnerships, you heard charging stations. I think that is one of the ones we believe can have a regional impact with some of our local partners, but we'll have that conversation. I just cited that because it's, I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit, but maybe it is an example of low-hanging fruit because it's a growing dynamic as we've talked about in previous conversations. So based on what we've learned from the pilot program, based on the fact of getting what we believe was a positive production from iParametrics, we're excited about the opportunity to hopefully work for them going into the next year because we believe we will get even more results from both the lessons we learned. And the other thing that Ms. Shannon mentioned is they do this for a lot of cities. And so they bring the experience of having done this for multiple cities, and we get to benefit from that. There is an art to writing grant applications in such a way that they are more likely to get funded. They have that type of experience. And so, to your point, we will follow that suggestion and try to learn from the experience of the pilot program as well.
So, you had a question?
Yes. Thank you for that, Mr. Phillips. I was going to also remind us that this was a pilot program, and I'm glad to hear that we learned some valuable lessons, which was part of the purpose, for the pilot program. I also agree that we should go after infrastructure dollars. I say go after the dollars where the dollars are. The federal government and the state government tells us what's their focus because that's where they put the money. And right now, that is infrastructure. However, infrastructure is broadly defined. So as you have suggested, Ms. Shannon, we need to prioritize and define what we mean by that and identify where those resources are to help us address those needs. Mr. Phillips, you recall on several occasions I sent you an email, multiple emails regarding the National League of Cities local infrastructure hub, which, I was looking to Mr. Thompson to do that, but he's very busy. But I see that this would be a great opportunity for Ms. Shannon to be kind of the lead in participating in that program. What it is providing technical assistance to, small communities in going after the grants, and their success rate has been astronomical. And it is focusing on infrastructure, and it has been, I think they're on the third cohort now, and it's been bridges, it's been water, piping, and one other. I can't remember. But I would ask if we could resurrect that, and I will find out when's the next cohort. I think this would be appropriate for you to be the lead and participate. I'm not trying to dictate your staffing, but I'm suggesting and recommending so for consideration. I would also say that there is monies available for broadband. In fact, Senator Warnock, and if you recall, I wrote a letter of support identifying or suggesting the pricing for broadband and the need to keep it low because of the poverty rate that's in our communities. Well, 22-point-something million is coming through his office, that direct funding that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that will be directed or spent, but if we can find that out and tap into that, because that would be very helpful to our community as well. Broadband is infrastructure. We need broadband, and we're trying to develop our downtown. We need high-speed internet. We need all of that. And on 74 and in various communities. So that is also an infrastructure. And then housing also. That is another federal focus, and that's where money is going to be, if not already, shifted toward. So we need to get prepared to tap into that. I would also say we need to identify our partners here in the city, both nonprofit. I'm thinking of Nehemiah's, for repair of senior housing. There's monies available to help assist with that, because housing infrastructure is also about repairing and bringing up to code your existing housing stock. That's exactly right. That coupled with building new units. And depending on how this election comes out, that's part of the conversation. So we need to get prepared in order to do that as well. We do housing, that infrastructure is an automatic part of that conversation. And then lastly, I would say, yes, of course, the EV charging station, because there's monies available for that. So our direction needs to be where the dollars are and where the discussion is being held regarding those. Identifying our partners, and I would suggest we work through our South Fulton Municipal Association. I agree. We should have a regional partnership, and that organization ought to be the focus of doing that, because we're all small communities. And if we work together under that umbrella as an organization, it would address those criteria that you've identified, Ms. Shannon, in terms of the population, in terms of the dollars and the projects, et cetera, and we're all contiguous in some form or fashion. And then, let's see, I talked about the broadband, local infrastructure hub, the housing, workforce development. Another hot topic, another focus of the federal government and state government, another area where there's dollars available to do that. Workforce development can feed into these other things that we're doing. In the utility sector, mass retirements all across the country. Every city is suffering in finding the replacement for those. Workforce development is the only way we're going to be able to build, that skill set. So another focus in terms of dollars. Those are high dollar items. Money's available for it, hot topics. So I would suggest we, look at those, again, prioritize our infrastructure, and the money probably would dictate that in terms of how we get it. But if you could do that and then come back with us with a more detailed or focused plan, because as we are participating in these various organizations and going through these various training programs, that will help us to know what our priorities are in the city, whom we need to talk to, or whom we need to tell staff they need to talk to go after all these dollars. We're all in this together.
That's right.
You can't do it by yourself. Staff can't do it by themselves, and we can't do it by ourselves. We have to do this together, and the only way we can do that is that we communicate with each other about what we're doing and what our focus needs to be. So if you can help us with that, I think we will be well on our way addressing these. And I just want to say, thank you for the work that you have done. Grant writing is an art, not a science. You win some and you lose some. But you do learn along the way. Absolutely. And the fact that you're working with other cities only helps us more. So if we can just get that plan sooner rather than later, so we can begin those conversations as we're out and about in the various programs and talking with people across the country, that will help us. Okay?
Thank you, Councilwoman Portis-Jones. Those are all great suggestions. I've made notes. We will follow up on all of them. Did want to provide a couple of brief updates. We have a staff-level dialogue with Senator Warnock's office around the $22 million that you mentioned, in addition to other congressionally directed spending. We are in the process to ensure that we can submit to them, when we develop that list, the projects we are focused on for the next round of funding. We've made the list on Congressman Scott's office for the 1.1 million we talked about. But that is an active dialogue. We've met with the Northwest Field Director for his office, had about a 90-minute meeting recently, and went through some very specific details. Great partnership, great dialogue, so we are going to deeply explore that. I did want to give Ms. Shannon a chance to talk about the infrastructure hub. I got your emails.
Okay.
I mentioned that to Ms. Shannon previously, so I'm going to allow her to speak to that.
Absolutely, and I'll say there's a lot of things that you said that kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Relationships between communities are built at your level. You know, so when you have those relationships and you're able to create those relationships with other communities, that's how we get those regional collaborations. I can call and cold call, but they're like, well, who the hell are you? You know, so I don't have that power that you all have in order to build those relationships and to open that door.
And nor should that be your focus.
And I appreciate that. That's not my ministry.
Yes, yes.
But that being said, you did also mention a very good thing about workforce development. So we've seen some very successful programs where they're joining workforce development and training with clean energy jobs. So they're training individuals at a low to moderate income in clean energy jobs because those are going to be the jobs of the future. And it kind of kills two birds with one stone, right? You're increasing your workforce, you're educating a workforce that can then go and work on the power grid of the future because it's coming. You know, and that could be funded through the Department of Energy. They've got some grants that funds that. Multiple federal agencies have very similar projects like that that focus on workforce development. And then also, Councilwoman Hudson, you mentioned the aging population, right?
Yes.
We have a situation where a lot of our seniors are aging in place.
Yes.
And their houses are falling apart.
Yes.
They have nowhere else to go.
Yes.
So you have to look at building up your existing housing infrastructure, right? It's not always about new construction because, one, you're going to price some people out of the market with new construction because construction cost is extremely high right now. Plus, it's just, you got to have a lot of money to build something new. But there are programs in which we can help individuals stay in their home and be there safely in their home, especially with a high number of seniors that are having to age in place. So that we've seen programs like that. So all of these are excellent ideas. Like I said, you just point me in the right direction and let me loose, and I'll go do what I do.
I would also add, Councilwoman Davis has talked about this in the past.
I was going to add to you, but you go ahead.
Okay, the weatherization, is that what you were gonna talk about?
Oh, no, well,
okay.
repair with kindness with habitat.
Yeah,
Yes, do that, and weatherization.
Right, so
That's a federal one.
federal dollars, though, available for the weatherization as well as the home repair for seniors. They kind of go together,
Absolutely.
so. okay.
And I just
Thank
want,
you. Mhm.
I was just going to mention, and actually the city manager already kind of mentioned it, the meeting we had with Senator Warnock's office last week, a very, very great meeting. I actually spoke with the lady that actually hired her that night. And so third in command in Warnock's office, your key note in this case was about, as you stated, it's about relationships. Actually, one of the great relationships we have is actually with Anna Roach. I believe you used to have to work, you worked for her, if I'm correct.
Yes, I
So-
did, and I just, thank you, Mayor. I reached out to Ms. Roach earlier this year to talk to her. We had a detailed conversation about our infrastructure and water-specific needs here. She put me in touch with Danny Johnson, who is on the board of not only ARC, but also the North Georgia Water Planning District, so we have that connection as well.
And I know him
so-
as well.
Right, and so we are reaching out to any and all stakeholders that can help us in that process. And so that's at the senatorial level, at the ARC level, at the North Georgia Water Planning District, and that's just for those specific stakeholders. We hear loud and clear that those partnerships are highly valuable, and Ms. Shannon has already talked about regional impact, and so we'll continue to pursue those. But yes, we've
And-
had those conversations.
And also, as Shannon just mentioned earlier, we're not the only person or the only city talking to Senator Warnock and Congressman David Scott. In this case, our staff is one of the few that's actually moving with trying to get results. And I know because that's what their office is actually telling me and the city administrator. I don't need you guys to know this. And so, again, there's a lot that's actually happening in your efforts as it relates to relationships, and I've been blessed to have some great relationships. A lot the relationship our city has as a result of all the cities that are competing for the infrastructure billion-dollar bill. Again, the city of Fairburn is actually blessed along now, as you can see at Highway 54 at Peachtree City, where in this case, where Highway 74 and 54 is actually under construction as we speak as well. So There's a lot of conversation going on. It takes, unfortunately, this is not overnight between the time that you actually sit down with the people and actually come up with some actual physical manifestation. But all of the comments that's been made today has played a major role. One of the things I want to commend this council is that we've actually, as a result of our council members being involved in GMA, National League of Cities, as well as ARC, is actually paying dividends for us in the long run, because when it's all said and done, as Ms. Hutchins mentioned, she's at the table. All of us, I can't be there every meeting, and neither. And so as a result of the different council members being in different organizations, is paying dividends for the city as a whole. So I'm just going to publicly say thank every council member that's involved in the different current or previous members of any of those organizations. So with that being said, I think we've got about 3 or 4 minutes. Did you have anything you want to finish?
Just one other thing, I would be remiss in saying, keep in mind, we are in an election year. So there could be drastic changes to the federal grant landscape depending upon who's in office, right? And those are changes neither one of us can speak to. But I just want my clients to keep that in mind, right? We've got a roadmap and a plan now based on the current grant landscape, but that could change. And so I believe in keeping expectations crystal clear and us knowing any and everything that could potentially change our road ahead. And so our best efforts can put a plan, but if that changes in the federal grant infrastructure landscape changes, then we'll have to kind of regroup. But that's
Yes, ma'am. One last thing, members of council. What happens too is, I can't remember if Mr. Whitmore or Ms. Jones brought it up about partnering with neighboring cities. But what happens is, what we found, and I won't tell you the road because you'll be able to figure out what city I'm talking about. But we had a project whereby we tried to actually partner with a city, a major road in our city. And long story short, the argument I made to the particular government, the mayor in particular, was that since the mobilization cost is already covered by Fairburn, the folk are already there, why don't you go ahead and put a solicitation out and finish the last 1/3 of the road? Long story short, the city basically told me, said, we don't have the money to put it in that particular area of our city. I said, okay, fine. But what happens is, and of course the statement was made, well, why don't y'all just finish the road? And I said, obviously you want me to get thrown out of office for paving a road in another city. So what the point is, some of the other neighboring cities budget may not have the space to accommodate when we're actually trying to partner with them in terms of joint venturing on a project.
And one last thing, keep in mind that some of these grants have a match requirement. So,
My case in point.
yes, so before we even write a grant, we ask, hey, do we have this available? Because if there is no match funding available, we don't even waste our time going after it. So that's another component, adds another layer to the complexity. We may find a grant that's great, we think we can get it, but if we don't have the match funding sitting somewhere, then obviously we can't go after that grant. So that's just another thing I wanted to mention. But other than that, are there any additional questions for me?
Thank you so much.
All right, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. I appreciate you.
So what now? I'm sorry. Members of council, we got about 2 minutes. For those of you come in, if you would, please, at this time, please turn your cell phones to the silent position. Let me double check just to make sure. And we'll start our meeting exactly in 2 minutes. Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get ready to bring our meeting to order. Thank you so much. So at this time, Ms. James, would you call the roll of the city council, please?
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem James Whitmore,
Present.
Honorable Linda J. Davis,
Present.
Honorable Alex Heath,
Present.
I believe it's the Honorable Samantha McCullough,
Present.
Ah, that's nice. Go, girl.
the Honorable Hattie Portis Jones,
Present.
Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
I'm present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you so much. At this point, I'll ask invitation from Pastor Frazier Love, Love Deliverance Outreach. Would you please come forward?
Amen, amen. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, God, we honor you today. Lord, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this great city. Lord Jesus, we ask you to continue to protect our mayor, our city council, our police department, our fire department. Lord Jesus, we thank you, God, for wisdom and knowledge that you've given this committee to run this great city. And Lord, we honor you, we love you, and we give you the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. We don't have any presentations and proclamations, so next, members of council, Ms. James, let me ask you a question before I do this. Item number 7 was asked to be held. I can actually adopt the agenda minus item number 7.
Adopt the agenda removing item number 7.
Okay, and then, Ms. Ms. City Attorney, as it relates to item number 3, we still need the announcement and then actually have a motion to continue.
You're going to have a public hearing tonight based on the announcement at
So-
last meeting.
Okay.
So do the
Public hearing.
And then after that public hearing, make a motion to table.
Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Table. So we will have a public hearing with that item. Members of council, can I entertain a motion to adopt the city council agenda with removal of item number 7?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this point, public comment. How many speakers do we have today?
I have one speaker.
Okay. Members, 30 minutes will be allocated for public comment. Each speaker will limited to 3 minutes. However, a speaker may transfer his or her 3 minutes to another speaker, but no speaker shall speak for more than 6 minutes. Information issues raised at this time are generally referred to the city administrator for review. Responses will be provided at a later date. Would you call our first speaker?
Ernie Brooks.
Hold on Mr. Brooks.
I'd like to share with you, I'm sorry, say again, sir.
Mr. Brooks, hold on 1 second. Is this, your comments regarding the item on the agenda for the public hearing by any chance?
No, sir, my
Okay.
comments are about other issues that were
yes.
brought up in a couple of past meetings,
Yes, sir.
one of them the last meeting. But before I share my comments, I'd just like to say first, boo, happy Halloween. Second, I'd like to share with you my concern about the concern that was put forward about people not participating and only participating in the democratic process when it's close to home. And I thought, man, you know, I know when we elect people and they go to a lot of meetings and maybe it's hard to figure out why people don't come to city council meetings unless they're affected. And I thought, oh yeah, it's really hard for me. Now, I'm a low-tech guy to maneuver through Fairburn's website, and I know you published the date of the meeting, but what if you were to publish the agenda? If you were to publish the agenda on the little bulletin that comes with your utility bill, that'd be great. It's just a suggestion. Also, I'd like to share with you, I did go to the Fairburn Downtown Authority meeting, and it was not an agenda for the meeting that followed that, which was the Fairburn Development Authority. And I know there was a concern about some alleged misconduct, some alleged shenanigans, there's some alleged improprieties, there's some alleged something going on, and some of you people know what's what. Now, I don't, but let me share with you what I witnessed at the Downtown Development Authority with Fairburn. After the agenda that was published, it was announced that, okay, well, we're finished with this meeting, we're moving over to the Fairburn Development Authority. No agenda published, and there was one item, and that was a data center that was proposed to be built on, what's the road out here going towards Palmetto? Anyway, there was a proposal to build this data center, and the investors were indemnified, and also there was an environmental indemnification. Now, indemnification means to be held harmless. We just talked about the infrastructures. These data centers require a lot of water, a lot of power. So I don't know if I'm in favor of this or not, because it does create jobs. So, but I'm just thinking, you know, it seems like there is some shenanigans going on if people don't participate and know about what's even on an agenda, or if there's not even an agenda. So I just thought, you know, well, maybe some of our city elected officials have become corrupted. And I'd just like to extend an invitation to you that it's not too late to come back from the dark side. Come back. We've opened up our hearts. We've opened up our homes. And we're the ones that elected you, so please do the right thing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your comment. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are before you approve of the city council meeting for the meeting that commenced on October the 14th. Is there a motion to approve their minutes?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, we will have a public hearing.
Next, the next item is a public hearing, a text amendment, automobile broker office. This is a recommendation for mayor and council approval of the proposed ordinance allowing automobile brokerage offices for administrative purposes in the office and institutional zoning district, along with supplemental regulations.
Apologize for the delay. It's actually the other presentation. We are bringing an item before you. We had a representative from the community reach out to us regarding a potential suite in their office building, and it was an auto broker. After working with the property owner, we were able to come together to look at potential amendments. In the office and institutional zoning district, it to a certain degree serves as a buffer for our heavy commercial and sometimes our industrial areas. Most of our office and institutional zoning district are located in the downtown area. So the applicant is a property owner, McCoy Realty. They submitted the request for the text amendment. In terms of its potential impact, we looked at where all of our office and institutional zoning districts are located, and there were some concerns. If someone is operating an auto broker business and it's just an office with no cars on site, we don't imagine that should be an issue, but there were no supplemental regulations. So we wanted to make sure, with considering the request to change the permitted uses in the office and institutional zoning district, we included some additional supplemental regulations to ensure that if there were other property owners that were interested in having more administrative offices close to the downtown, we did have something in the ordinance that made sure that there was a balance between making sure that the property owner could have additional tenants, but also making sure that those residential commercial developers in the surrounding areas did not have to deal with an auto broker who decided to kind of go against the grain and not follow the regulations. So you can see from the map, the office and institutional zoning districts are located in the pink, so they are very close to some residential areas. Our government buildings typically have that office and institutional zoning district. We did have some supplemental regulations that we have for consideration. One of those is that there will be no automotive maintenance work done on site. All activities must be conducted within an enclosed building. There will be no outdoor storage. There will be no automobiles on site at any time in reference to those permitted, except for those of the staff and clients. So to make sure that this small business owner had an opportunity to expand, but also ensuring that those residential properties that are close by don't run into the issue of having auto brokers expand or go against the rules and regulations. And we do have automotive uses, sales in other zoning districts that are more intense, like our neighborhood commercials along C2, but we did want to make sure that specifically because the intent is for an office building. But if anybody decided to do something outside of that, that we did have some regulations in place that we could go out and say, you can only have the office building if they decided to expand. Any questions for staff?
Okay. Let me do this, members of council. Let me actually open the public hearing. And here, 30 minutes will be allocated in this case for a public hearing. And members of council, can I entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, is there anyone here wish to speak in support or in favor of this item? Please come forward. Seeing none, is there anyone here wish to speak in opposition of this item? Please come forward. Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, members of council, you have before you a text amendment for automobile broker. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Discussion?
Well, I'm gonna bring it to the floor.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is made and properly
Got a
second.
motion to approve.
A motion,
No, to bring it to-
a motion to approve, and then in this case, it's second, and I'm gonna ask any questions or comments. In this case, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments by council? Go ahead.
So what did we approve, though? I'm confused. What did we approve?
The amendment,
Text amendment.
the text amendment she just described.
Okay, and then why we're having discussion after the approval?
Well, it's not approved, you're having,
That's just a
it's on the floor.
Okay, well, you said
You said
approved,
Excuse me, I
so
said that
that's why
kinda-
I'm
You
confused.
have to have a motion to approve or deny.
A motion to bring it to the floor for discussion.
For discussion.
Okay, second for the discussion. I'm bringing it to the floor for discussion purposes.
Motion to approve and a second for discussion.
Anybody has a question or comments?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes,
So Councilwoman Davis is the second for discussion.
A
Yes, ma'am.
discussion, yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
I appreciate the text amendment, and it is,
Time up for me?
I think it is appropriate. My only question to you is the language too narrow? I mean, what if we had somebody else, we would have to do this every time somebody came before us that wanted to set up an administrative building or office for something else that might not be included in it. I guess the question is, could you just say for office and industrial that it is office and industrial administrative offices or something like that only, rather than specifying automobile brokerage versus something else versus something else? Otherwise, you have to come back to us every time there is a request for this. So help me understand why it's so narrow, and could we broadly define it to be all-inclusive?
We, typically, there is a definition for office and institutional. So it's separate from industrial and our heavy industrial areas. This is specifically for the office and institutional zoning district. And because we do have language in the ordinance that specifically allows automotive car sales, this was something that's different and has never been done in the city. And in those instances, we do have to bring it to mayor and council for you to decide where it's most appropriate. So typically, if this property owner or a tenant wanted to go in our C2, C3 zoning district, there's already language within those zoning districts to account for that. In this instance, there was no language, and the ordinance requires that I come before you and consider it. Because we do have a significant amount of automotive uses in our downtown area, I think it's important to have supplemental regulations in this instance so that we can be sure to make sure that if anyone decides to do this use in other areas, that there are some supplemental regulations. And I think one of the probably most specific things is automotive car repair, automotive mechanics. We've seen a lot of that in our downtown, and because our office and institutional zoning districts are so close to residential, my recommendation is that we be a little bit more restrictive so that we can make sure that there is something in place that we can go to a potential tenant or anyone coming to the city looking for auto brokers to say, hey, you can do this, but because of the potential detrimental effect for this specific use, we do have supplemental regulations.
You know, I appreciate that. I guess the question is, could we just have some broader language to be all-encompassing so that you don't have to come back every single time there is some nuanced request? And you're saying that you prefer, I should say, to have the level of specificity.
For this specific use.
Yes, but the point is, every time that there will be some request or question, will be brought back before us. So the text amendment will always be targeted to one specific thing this time, another specific thing the next time, and another specific thing the next time after that.
No,
You can't have an all-inclusive language to say there will only be, and I don't know the exact language, but my point is, only be office, only be, no physical equipment. I don't know the language for it, but you get my point, right?
yes, and I think it's a valid point. We can certainly look into that. I know that this property owner in particular is looking to move forward with their tenant. So in this instance, we wanted to make sure that we were diligent with their time to make sure that they could move forward with their request. But we can certainly look into that as a part of our zoning audit, which is a comprehensive review of all of our zoning districts that we're currently preparing to do. We will have language in there for office and institutional, but we will also be looking at all of our zoning district. But typically, for the office and institutional, there is some broad language in there that will assist if like there's an accounting firm or a law firm or something of that nature. There's language in there, but for this particular use, that wasn't there. But we can certainly look into revising our definition for office and institutional to make this process a little bit easier.
All right, I would just suggest that, because I just don't think it's best use of any of our time to come back every single time you have that one request that's outside, right? So that should be our goal. But thank you for that, and I appreciate the urgency of it now.
Ms. Hudson and then Ms. Davis.
I actually appreciate the fact that you are zoning in on those areas that were not established. And I think you heard me speak many, many, many times to you about reviewing our zoning policies, bringing them up to date. What have you seen as the trend that Fairburn is lacking, and put that into play? So it's not a nuance for me, annoyance to me at all, because at least I know that you're making the effort to correct these things. So what I would suggest is that you put together a slate of topics that you know need to be addressed, and begin your policy focus there, because the text amendments are necessary because apparently they wasn't there, and you're doing your due diligence to make sure that we don't be in court. So I'm okay with that. So if you could just put together something before the end of this year, what your 2025 policy focus is going to be for planning and zoning. And I think that that would be a good thing. At least we know where you're working at. And a timeline. It can be subjective, flexible in your timeline. These are the things that I want to achieve. But those top 3 priorities
that you know that's necessary. Hey, to the council, between January and July, or before our fiscal year end, these are the rewrites that you can expect. And within between that time, drafts, that, you know, so you can get the feedback that you need. So when you come to that time, you said 6 months out from the year, this is gonna be done, then we're ready to rock and roll with that. And so I'm okay with it. Thank you.
Any other members of council got a question? Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to clarify in reference to your approval conditional status. And you have listed 4 things down here as a condition to approve this. Is that's correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Next item is the Popular Commons Landmark rezoning. It's a request for mayor and council to table this item. The applicant is requesting an amendment to the future land use map, and the review standards and processes are presently under consideration.
Okay. Again, members of council, we were, Ms. Ross, in accordance with your request, in this case, I will actually open the public hearing. Okay, yes, ma'am. Members of council, can I entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made and second by Ms. Davis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, can I speak? Anyone that wish to speak? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Let me do that.
Hello again.
Hello.
The item before you is a rezoning and variance, concurrent variance request. The applicant is requesting to rezone 4 parcels from single-family residential, and one of the parcels is AG. The applicant is requesting to rezone to residential condominium townhome zoning district. They're also requesting to waive the 25-foot buffer required along all public right-of-way. The proposed development includes houses that will front Milo Fisher, East Campbellton. The applicant is proposing a 10-foot wide front building setback.
Okay.
The applicant initially submitted a request to build townhomes after the first public meeting. It was standing room only. There were a lot of feedback received. We had some strong opposition to the request. The applicant then took that into account and reduced the number of townhomes from 42 to 31 single-family homes. There's still some concerns regarding the density in the area in comparison to other homes. The applicant was aware of the conflict with the future land use map and has since requested that be considered, which is why we are recommending that the item be tabled to allow time for both items to be considered at the same time, the rezoning concurrent variance and the future land use amendment request. But once again, the applicant is requesting to rezone the parcels to build 31 homes, and that is the item before you. There are a lot of items when looking at both the rezoning, the variance, and we will present those items when all of the different elements that the applicant is requesting is submitted at that time. But I know that there are some members of the public that would like to speak, so if there are no questions for me, I will move out of the way so that the public hearing can begin.
Yeah, hold on one second. At this time is actually the public hearing. Anyone that wishes, the public hearing is open. Is there anyone here that, first of all, wishes to speak in support of the item? Come on up, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name's Stephen Jones. I'm with the law firm of Taylor English Duma. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant. I have a PowerPoint that I'd like to share.
Okay.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to present this project. We are requesting a table so that an application for an amendment to the comprehensive plan can catch up with this rezoning application and a concurrent variance. So I don't want to go into the full details of this tonight, but But I would, just want to give you an overview, and when this comes back before you, should you choose to table it, then I can delve into all the details. But this is Poplar Commons, the large parcel for which a comprehensive land use plan amendment is requested to change the future land use map designation for this parcel. That's a mouthful. Is the larger parcel on the property that is owned by Landmark Christian School. Landmark is in support of this application, obviously being one of the property owners, but our desire for this is to build a village that can be utilized by faculty and student families of the school, as well as anybody else who chooses to buy this. We're not restricting these homes to students and faculty of the school, but that's the design. We've seen great success with that with other private schools in the metropolitan area, with villages dedicated or primarily targeted for those markets. So you'll see here highlighted on your screen, you can see the school campus highlighted in white or outlined in white, and then the subject property outlined in yellow. Here's the general layout. To give a historical feel and atmosphere to these homes, we've chosen to deliberately push them up to the frontage, with all of them being rear loaded. So, well, that means that the garages are on the back side of the house with the facade and front porch on the front. Staff has some conditions, a number of conditions in your agenda packet tonight, which highlight quite a few conditions, some of which are related to the appearance of those homes along the frontage. We consent to all of those conditions. On the interior, we're proposing an interior street. There's an unbuilt right-of-way for Church Street that almost lines up with the school driveway to the northwest. We're going to realign the school's driveway so that that initially intended Church Street from back when the city was initially laid out, we're just going to extend that and build that public right-of-way. Those interior homes that you see right there on that cul-de-sac, those will be front-loaded. That's with the garage on the front, but those are interior to the site. On the south side of the project, you'll see that there's a pond and a stream course that we're going to activate for passive recreation. Staff has a condition related to an amenity area in there that we also consent to. So we're requesting to accomplish this, the RC zoning, which is 45-foot wide detached. As staff noted, we moved to a detached product in response to some of the comments that we heard during community meetings. And again, this slide just highlights that all those lots and homes that are fronting along the public right-of-way are going to be front-facing with rear alley access. And then so that open space that I discussed on the backside near the water course, that's approximately 33% of the site. So we envision doing some sort of passive recreation towards that back area. Here's a aerial rendering of what the development would look like. You can see that internal street to the back, and then you can see the alley-fed lots on the frontage for the highway and along Milo Fisher. Here's a rendering of looking at Highway 92, East Campbellton Street, of those front facades. Staff's got a recommended condition about 6-foot porches, which we're incorporating, which is intended to give that in-town historical cottage feel to these houses. This is the intersection of Milo and East Campbellton. You'll note staff has a recommended condition about moving any of that mechanical stuff. So you'll see on these renderings, actually, there's some HVAC equipment that gets moved, so it's not visible from the public right-of-way. Here's the interior look. So this is looking into the site. The middle of your screen is almost the intersection of Campbellton and Milo. So you can see this interior courtyard with off-street parking, the centralized mailbox units, and then those rear-fed garages. This is looking the opposite direction. Again, the shared parking. And then here's that new internal street. So you can see Church Street heading northwest to the left on your screen, and then that new interior street. So you get the front-loaded product here on this internal street. And then this is looking over that water feature toward interior to the development. So, you know, we'd activate that so folks could walk around it, enjoy the water, have some passive recreation area inside the development. This is just another facade along 92 where you can see that what that front entry does. One of the reasons we're requesting that concurrent variance so that we can have that walk-up feel. Again, designed primarily to market towards folks who are either students or faculty or staff at the school. So you can walk along public sidewalks to the school and directly to home. So you have a very pedestrian-oriented lifestyle. This is just another rendering. These are interior, obviously, homes, which you can see the walk-up. More renderings of the same type, those interior, or the alley fed. And then here's another just aerial shot. So I could definitely go into more depth, but we are requesting a tabling because if you look in staff's really very detailed staff recommendation analysis and report, there's a lot of discussion about things that weigh in favor of this application, but ultimately with respect to the Landmark Christian School property, staff is recommending denial because of the comprehensive plan. We think for that comprehensive plan that the vast majority of the factors weigh in favor of approval of this application, and that with staff's recommended conditions that this would be a very quality development that would provide a village that, again, a lot of other private schools of similar stature to Landmark have as a drawing force. So we're really looking forward to it. We would ask though that you table that so that we can allow the comprehensive plan amendment to catch up, so that that facet of the analysis of your rezoning factors may, should it be the council's will, change so that the comprehensive plan designation for this parcel fits. One piece, and I don't want to mix those applications, but the TCMU future land use map designation is applied to all the other parcels but for the Landmark Christian School property. And so all the parcels fronting on Milo Fisher and the subject properties here fronting along East Campbellton have the proper comprehensive plan designation. It's just this one parcel behind it. So when you get to that application, we can discuss that more in depth, but we think it would be appropriate too, just to draw that designation one parcel lower to the Christian Schools parcel, which, but for its frontage on Church Street, does not have really any potential to be developed. So with that, I really thank you for your time, consideration of this application, and then future consideration of the comprehensive plan amendment application. If you have any questions, be more than happy to address those at this time. I would like to reserve some time to address any public comments that may come up.
Here's my question to you, Ms. James. Should I wait till I do the for and against and then members of council? Or should?
He's in the four. He's in the four. He only has 51 seconds left.
Okay.
So just do your regular public
Okay.
hearing
I see so.
Okay, sir. So you got 51 seconds left. If you got something to say.
Can I reserve that?
You get 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Yeah, you'll get 5 minutes for rebuttal.
If you have any questions, happy to
My
address
question
them.
is, if a member, but
Can I answer the question?
you don't normally ask questions until after the,
Hearing, not at this.
Okay.
not at this place. Right, go ahead.
Your opposition.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak in support of the item? Is there, okay, seeing none, is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition of the item? Please come up.
I don't know, y'all. In my mind, if you're going to build houses for a select group of people, that's a little discriminatory. the facility is going to supply housing for landmark Christian faculty and their families. Second of all, if you give a variance of 10 feet, the photograph showed that was a lot further than 10 feet, them 6-foot front porches, and there were no cars in the diagram. I'm against tabling this issue, and I'm also against this issue. I handed out 250 notices to let the community know, and I rang the doorbell and spoke with many people. Out of 250, well, I didn't speak with 250, but the people I did speak with, nobody. People on the other side of the track, people down the road, they didn't know, even with your signage out, what this was. This is too dense. It's too congested. It is not a good fit. And please, don't be a sellout and carry water for the power elite. We've had enough of that with what's already been developed or is soon to be developed. At what point is the saturation point and we say, okay, that's it, we've had enough, we are going to have to start redeveloping what we've developed. Now, I hope you're not limiting me to 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
The other gentleman wasn't. But was that a presentation? If it is, I basically said what I want. Please, don't be a sellout. Vote no to change the zoning and vote no to table it. Make a decision now. They've been pretty privileged with one, tabling it already. They've tabled it once. Now they want to table it again, and they've already admitted to you that they want to be discriminatory. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
My name is Walter Brown, 171 Azalea Drive. I'm not against houses. That's progress. I'm against the number of houses in this area. We've got a large development down Fayetteville Road, a very large development that's being built. We've got a large development there at 92 and Oakley. And I know that's part of that is in South Fulton. However, it will affect Fairburn. Traffic is one thing. Now it's almost impossible to get through the intersection at certain times of the day. That's one thing. The other thing is the water. Our water pressure in the mornings and in the evenings on that side of town it's terrible, and it's because of the usage at that time. I don't doubt that these houses will look good, have no problem with the looks of them. It's the number of them and how that's going to affect traffic, water, and electricity. I can't speak to that. However, I wish you would give some consideration to how it affects people on this side, on the other side of the railroad. But it will affect the traffic, it will affect the water, and it will affect the lifestyle of the people on that side. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Come on up. Yes, ma'am.
Ragland, 593 Search Halls. My only concern about bringing so many things in at one time is that we seem to be dragging our feet on that comprehensive development plan. I sent an email out to the council and said that if you're going to involve the public at any time, I'm volunteering because it seems haphazard to keep adding in housing development. And as the man said before, our infrastructure needs to be addressed, and I know that you're working on that, but we can't bring in development faster than we make the foundation improvements. Water pressure is also low on Search Halls. You don't have sidewalks yet, and I know it's coming. I was told that on my end of Search Halls on 92. Landmark is really a major feature of Fairburn, and I would like for them to improve and look as good as they can because it's an asset. But at the same time, we cannot table the residents who've been here. This is our hometown. And so we'd like to see more organization when it comes to adding things because we have to admit our comprehensive development plan is not fully in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Go ahead, sir. Come on up, please.
I'm Sharko from 240 East Compton Street, directly diagonally across from this little craziness. I have no problems with somebody coming in building houses because I've been sitting on 4 acres of ground since 1962, trying to figure out what's the best thing to do for this city. My major question is, have any of y'all worked with the sewage crew in the city? Have y'all went out and helped clean the manholes? We got a nasty configuration of sewage that they told me back in the CCC days, they hand dug the lines. So if you're gonna stick 42 houses, I'm gonna get a lot more shit coming my way, and I'm gonna be a lot madder. And I'm gonna be up there, and y'all won't be up there. So go figure out how to make it, because we got a nice town of a nice blend of old houses, new houses. I've landscaped the hell out of the houses that came in from 1965 onward. And why don't we put some houses there, but don't put 10,000 houses. And then I can put the same thing on mine. And we can have a bigger, you can have a bigger house, what is it, rooftop count that y'all kids want to count how many people you have so you can get a bigger thing. So, I'm sitting there on a farm, and as I get older, it's gonna be hard to pull weeds in a wheelchair. So I'm gonna have to do something. But if you're gonna stick that many thousand houses in, I'm gonna be up here in my wheelchair, and y'all gonna be gone. All right, kids, y'all have fun.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hey, I'm Linda Sharko at the other half of that operation. We're directly across from this. And, we had a lot of people that did not come tonight because we know this is being tabled. And so out of respect to them, because we've got a lot of people that is very concerned and very upset about the volume of houses, the style of houses, how crowded they are, and not just the visual look and the feel of the community, but like he said, the sewage, the water, as we add more to, that we'll have a hard time maintaining and taking care of it right, and one of the things that I think a lot of us also would love to see is more of this being kept in a green space, a park for the kids for the landmark, and not so much asphalt, concrete, hard space, in addition to all the impact on everybody. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? That being said, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
So you wanted to rebuttal?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, sir. Come on, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I apologize. You're right. I'm sorry. You got 5 minutes to rebuttal, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Again, Stephen Jones, Taylor English, on behalf of the applicant. First off, yes, this project is targeted towards faculty, staff, students, but it's not in any way discriminatory housing. That would be illegal, potentially. It's open to anyone who would want to purchase, so definitely not true on that accusation. I know some folks have some concern with some density, but the way that this project is designed to lay out is this is a low-maintenance type project with everything in the green space in the open area, which is over or approximately a third of the site. This is designed for people who want a low-maintenance product where everything is maintained on the outside by a common homeowners association, which is another condition that the staff has recommended. This is a type of housing that is needed. It is a type of housing, a subset of housing that I believe your comprehensive plan even calls for, as noted in the staff report. So, some people do like larger lots and larger acreage. This is for a different type of user, or a different type of homeowner, particularly those who may want to live in the city full-time, or while they're attending school, or while they're working at the school. That's certainly one. Again, this is a type of product that we've seen, or a type of development that we've seen successful in other cities with other similarly situated schools. So I don't know that some of those concerns about the density actually hold true when you look at the product and the project on the larger scale of where it's situated and how it's going to be used by those that live there. With that, I would ask that you table it because we do want that comprehensive plan amendment to catch up with it. If you do have any questions, be happy to answer those at this time, and I thank you for hearing this application.
At this time, at this point, go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Need to close the public.
Members of council, let me make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who is?
Sir, the actual applicant has, by Robert's Rules of Order, have the right to rebuttal. That's the law, that's the court, that's the code.
Who had the,
That's the code, sir. That's written in Robert's Rules of Order.
who made the second? 'Cause-
Okay, Mr. Whitmore and Mr. Smallwood, actually.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, Ms. Davis, you had a question?
Yes, Mr. Jones, I have a concern. There will be several questions after, if this is tabled. With the density of that area, and I know you've said several times that you're targeting people that are either working at Landmark or going to school at Landmark, but I want to know about the width and depth of the inward street, the inside street into the complex, in and out. Will that street be applicable to a bus coming in there to get, because I've known in another city, which Fairburn shares a road to, that development did not make those streets wide enough for a bus to come in. So we have like 4 or 5 buses coming up on the external street to the development, and the kids have to come out and utilize the buses. So I want to make sure the streets that's inside there, they be applicable, because it could be someone going to another school, not necessarily Landmark, that would need bus transportation. So if you could just share that with me. Oops.
Yes, Councilwoman, that's actually something that we looked at in the design and layout of this subdivision. You've got the Church Street extension, which is that dog leg that terminates in the cul-de-sac. That's designed to city standards for a 50-foot right-of-way, so it can be utilized by any vehicle. Now, you do have the internal alley feds, but those are for the lots that front on the public street. So what you would have and what we'd envision, now this is subject to the school board laying out bus routes, but you'd have a singular bus stop at that internal cul-de-sac for the children that do ride the bus to school.
Okay.
And I can pull the site plan up if it be helpful.
No, that won't be necessary.
Would you please?
Go ahead.
Go ahead and bring
Go
it up.
ahead.
You finish? I just want to see if, as she's talking, so would you pull it up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I can't get the clicker to work. Can we go back a few slides? There we go. So if you look here, you see, if you can see the Church Street extension, my pointer won't work on that LED screen, but you can see the realignment of Landmarks, one of their driveways to the northeast. If you see that dogleg road with the double cul-de-sacs, or the eyebrow and then the cul-de-sac at the end. That's what I was referring to. That street is designed, part of it is actually on an existing city right-of-way that's unimproved, which is called Church Street. And then the remaining part is the road that we would construct to city standards.
Okay, so a bus can adequately get in and turn around and pick up kids inside of this development?
Yes, Councilwoman, that's why it's designed to what your code would require for an improved city street.
I'm done with that.
Mr. Heath, and then go ahead.
How large are the lots? What's the square footage on that?
So these lots are going to be 45 feet wide. Let me pull up the square footage, I apologize.
Okay.
The minimum lot area is 3,000 square feet. You would always say have some differentiation in those. With a 45-foot wide lot on minimum, 3,000 square foot minimum.
And it looks like that all of the homes have a two-car garage?
Yes, Councilman, that's correct. Some rear, some front.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. McCullough?
I know.
I'm trying to get straight.
So I understand you're tabling this to catch up with the comprehensive plan. Were you aware of the current comprehensive plan before you submitted this plan?
Yes, Councilwoman, we were. But we're also aware that the majority of the parcels did have the correct comprehensive plan designation. And the issue is that this back acreage parcel, or the larger parcel that's owned by Landmark where there used to be a swimming pool, it didn't. But we felt that that was, and part of that next application will be the argument that it's a natural extension, given that the majority of the parcels surrounding this have a TCMU, future land use map designation.
My other question was, there were 2 meetings that your organization held with the community, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's
How
correct.
many attended?
I don't have it in front of me, but there was a sign-in sheet. I actually wasn't in attendance at that one.
So I understand that there was a lot of people who attended that meeting on 2 separate occasions. And that they are reporting that still they didn't feel heard. I want to say that growth is necessary. How we grow is important, and that's what I keep hearing the residents talking and what their concern is. Not for you, but I have to raise this issue because I have gotten so many emails that we had residents who were very concerned that they were discouraged from participating in the public comment. And I definitely have been raising my voice about community engagement, putting the citizens first, making sure that they are part of the conversations when it comes to developing in our community. So that's for us, this body, to make sure that we channel that energy that we want you all here. Like you're here tonight, I hear you. I'm one member here, but I want you here. I don't want to say too much about your development. I've read through it, right? And I understand. I do have some concerns with the number in that area, the density in that area. There are some communities here in Fairburn that had similar issues with a lot of houses in one spot. I don't think that this is discrimination, and we have to be very careful with that language, but that's the feelings of the residents. Not for you, but we can't put the cart before the horse. Has anyone followed up with our constituent that wanted to participate in the comprehensive plan? The email came out on October 17th. Of course, I was in newlywed status, y'all. But I need to make sure that she is a part of that and at the table, and where are we with that?
Thank you, Councilwoman Hudson. Absolutely. I have all of what I know to be Ms. Ragland's contact information.
Yes.
The mayor had also forwarded that same email. We provided a response to his email, ensuring that not only Ms. Ragland, but all of our residents will be informed well in advance. 2025, as we discussed at the last meeting, is our year to do our 5-year update to the comprehensive plan. It requires public participation in that process. And so we'll be working with all of our stakeholders to get the word out as far and wide as we can. Certainly, Ms. Ragland will know all of the details, but we want to make sure that every resident of Fairburn has the opportunity to know that that process is taking place and where they can provide their direct input into the comprehensive planning process.
I would like to see a meeting held before 2025 to inform our residents of this process. Ms. Ragland reached out, so her voice is elevated in that. The education needs to go before 2025. We know what's coming, so we don't want to wait till the last minute. Want to make sure that our residents over in Poplar Common, that you are also participating in that comprehensive plan. Your voice is being heard in there as well. What I would like to urge you all is to don't limit the development in Fairburn based off of the comfortability that you have been used to. Let's come to the table and look at how Fairburn needs to look and grow as a collective. So I need to see some information and some engagement going out before. We are in October, about to go to November. 2025 will be here before you know it. So we need to run a small campaign, information campaign to our community, our website, our text and call, and whatever we need to do. We want to increase the number of participation for 2025, set a standard moving forward that this is how we're going to roll when it comes to the comprehensive plan.
If you, Ms. Hudson, if you'll yield for a second, I was going to ask you,
Yes.
let her speak. Go ahead.
Yes.
Hi, so one of the best part about being a planner is really the comprehensive plan. I wasn't here for the last comprehensive plan. Me and my entire team have done a complete audit of things that we want to see change. We are currently in the procurement process, so I cannot talk about the details of it, but we will select a firm and move forward with it. The reason we've taken our time with this is because the community engagement piece is going to be critical for us. We don't want the typical plan. We did reach out to the Atlanta Regional Commission because they typically provide local governments with services, but they recommended that we go out and get a consultant firm because they did not recommend that we just do the cookie cutter approach that we have seen other communities do when they work with the ARC. They simply, there's a staffing issue there, so they always recommend that if you have the resources, that you make sure and get the best firm possible to help you with that. In the last budget cycles, council was really generous in making sure that we have sufficient funding to get our comp plan done before that 2025. You'll probably see something in December once we select whom we're going to move forward with, and they will provide us with a community engagement plan that's a part of that process. So there will be a significant amount of public meetings. You will probably get tired of me talking about the comp plan by the time we get done with it.
So we do have funding. I know we have funding for the comp plan, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, and just kind of follow up, I was actually going to mention, Ms. Hudson, excuse me, Ms. McCullough, is that the procurement requirement as relates to how many weeks and how many months, and then the RFP process in this case we'll be pushing up against the end of the year, I believe, because of, anyway, but there's a requirement as relates to staying within protocol, even despite the fact that we're going out to bid. And again, so that's not as, my goal is to make sure that is done.
Try not to get in trouble with procurement, sir.
Trying to make sure that's done by the book, because in this case, that's actually going to be watched by everybody. So,
Yes.
go ahead, Ms.
Yes. Okay, so we're really talking two different things here. The update of the existing comprehensive plan, which is due in 2025. That's the issue that you just discussed. But the issue before us and relating to this project is the text amendment or the comprehensive plan amendment that has been presented to us as it relates to this project, Poplar Commons.
Yes.
So could you state, for the record, what is the amendment request in the comprehensive plan to address the Poplar Commons project? And when will that be before us? And I guess to restate the necessity for this amendment. Okay, as it relates to this project.
The applicant has received the application for the comprehensive plan amendment, which is just a request to change the map. There are quite a few standards that are a part of that request. The applicant has to submit the application, has to do the analysis to look at all of the items that are part of that request. Once we receive that, then the applicant has to have a public neighborhood meeting before that item is scheduled for a public hearing. So the item before you right now is to table it because the applicant is asking for rezoning, concurrent variance, and also a request for a future land use amendment, but they are currently preparing their application. We have not received that yet.
Okay, so what is the request, though, for an amendment to the comprehensive plan? What's not there that is being asked as it relates to this project?
So the largest piece of the development has a rural residential designation. The applicant is,
So, hold up, could we put that back so that everybody can see exactly what we're talking about? And if you can point to the particular area of the project that is not included or is outside of the comprehensive plan at this moment.
sure, could you pull my presentation up, please? Mhm. My humming's not very good, so I don't have good elevator music, if you can. Oh, clicker's not working.
Battery?
Ooh, there we go. There we go. So the applicant is requesting to change the rural residential designation, which is the largest piece of the development. That is where he's proposing to put some of the houses and also the stormwater detention facility. So he has to complete the application to amend that request. And he has asked that this item be tabled so that the rezoning request, concurrent variance request, and the future land use or comprehensive plan amendment can be considered at the same time. So he's also going to be requesting to change that green to the town center mixed use designation, I'm assuming. I have not received the application.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Councilwoman, yes, so that's correct. At your last meeting, I believe it was, you approved a text amendment that authorized or adopted a procedure for the comprehensive plan to be amended. As part of that process, to the Councilwoman's question on community engagement, there is a process where the application is filed, then there's a community hearing, and then it goes through your standard zoning process with public hearings before your planning commission in this body. So that one will go through the full cycle. We have received, and since you adopted your text amendment, staff had to actually create a new application from scratch. They did that. We received it. We've sent it for the property owner's signature. When that comes back, then we will turn it into staff. We will have a community meeting, and then we will proceed through the public hearing process. To Councilman Portis-Jones's comment about what would that specific request be, that specific request will be to have that larger piece, the green, or maybe I'm colorblind, it looks green, piece changed to the purple, which is the TCMU, consistent with the other parcels that are fronting along Church Street on the Milo Fisher Spence Road block.
Okay, so it is currently zoned rural, or zone or titled rural residential.
Correct.
And you are wanting it, you're requesting it to be rezoned as townhome residential, single residential?
No, that's,
We have not received that application, so it's probably best to discuss that when we receive the application.
Okay. All right, and then for the record, could you state what is TCMU?
Town center mixed use.
Okay. All right, and if you are requesting it to be tabled, how long are you requesting it to be tabled? Or is that a premature question?
I would say that is a premature question because we
Okay.
have to receive the application, then we can figure out when the next public hearing is, because there are advertising requirements. So all the signs that we have out there, we have to put new signs out.
Okay, so we're basically starting the process over then?
No,
Because it's a
we're
different application?
We're recommending that this item be tabled so that they can complete the comprehensive plan application and that the items can be considered at the same time.
Okay. And then, I don't know if this is an appropriate question or not, but, so is Landmark the client or developer of this project? Or did they sell the land to someone else?
The applicant on the application is Freedom Builders and Landmark. So
And
Landmark,
Landmark. Okay, so co-owners of this project. Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Smallwood?
And on that map you had up there, so what can actually be built on rural residential right now? What kind of homes?
not necessarily. The rural residential designation is specifically designated toward agricultural, but I would recommend that we table the item so that we can look at the standards while we consider it.
Mr. Heath, go ahead.
What about the density of the homes? Would there, I mean, those lots going to be pretty small. So when you got that many residents living in one area, it can propel to be a lot of problems, especially if you were to have a fire, because the houses are so close together that they could basically catch on fire together. So my question is, would they look at reducing the number of homes in that development?
So, as to the fire thing, the International Fire Code dictates the separation of the homes, and that it's designed to comply with the International Fire Code. As to the density, that's certainly something we can look at, but what we have already reduced the density from the initial application. Then the initial application, we proposed townhomes.
Yes.
And then as it went through the public engagement process, there was concern about that product type and the density of that product. So we moved to a detached product that has the required fire separation and that decreased the density of the original proposal. So decreasing it further, we'd have to look at it on paper and see what that looks like, because, you know, also we want the project to make sense for the residents that live there, and a lot of what goes into the ultimate sales price, which I can't tell you what the market's going to be a year or two from now when we sell them, but
That's another thing. What's the estimated sales price? Do you have an idea? Just an estimate.
I'd say somewhere about the 300s, but we're not in that market. We don't know what the market's going to do years from now, but you know, that's the idea.
All right.
And but to your question, a lot of what goes into a home sale price, you know, the rule of thumb is somewhere about 20-25% is the dirt itself.
Yes.
And so we're looking at trying to put those in a range that are attainable by faculty, staff, and students, as well as other people who want to and deserve to live in the city.
Yes.
Density and dirt price are a significant factor.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.
Another question, Mayor.
Mr. Whitmore, then I'll come back to Ms. Jones.
Yes, sir. So I think we're at a position now where while we're going through this process with the comp plan and everything and making sure that everything is the way it should be, but this gives you a grand opportunity to look at even reducing more. I understand that the people that own the property, Landmark and the other citizen, okay? But I also heard that even though you said that there's not going to be any restrictions from anyone purchasing, but we all know that it's going to be Landmark, more than likely. Okay, so I think as we take this pause and take this approach to relook, revisit, and understand everyone's perspective, we should be able to come to a more common identification, which reduction would play a big part in that. So something for you to really consider in going back to your applicant.
Ms. Jones and then Ms. Davis.
Could you put the picture back up that shows the rendering with the sidewalks? Yes. Okay, so at East Hamilton Street, Highway 92 is a major, major thoroughfare, heavily trafficked. I'm concerned about the sidewalks on 92. Have there been other considerations about that frontage, given the busyness of that road? I mean, trucks travel, lots of cars there, and if most of the houses in the rear, what's the purpose of the sidewalks in the front on that major thoroughfare?
I don't want to, I believe that there is a transportation goal to increase the volume of sidewalks or the foot miles of sidewalks. That's what we were trying to accomplish. If your concern is safety, I think the design here was to keep the sidewalks within the public right-of-way where they're traditionally located. But if the councilwoman has a concern about safety, maybe we can look at pushing those further inwards towards the development and doing some sort of easement there. That's definitely a possibility.
Well, I would ask for that reconsideration, and then quite frankly, this is a sidewalk to nowhere, right? I mean, the sidewalk is just in front of this subdivision, and then there's nothing else on the other side. And that also given that it is a major thoroughfare, this just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm asking us to just reconsider this, take another look, because safety is of paramount, and there's nothing else there but this, right? And I think we could, those resources could be better used, or, the traffic we directed. So I would ask that reconsideration for safety.
We will definitely look at that with staff. We don't have a problem reducing the sidewalks. I think that there was a desire for there to be a tie-in to some existing sidewalks near Milo Fisher.
Milo Fisher is different than 92.
Yes,
Okay,
Councilwoman.
Right. So my concern is about 92 and sidewalks on 92, which just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so I ask you to, I understand about Milo Fisher, I understand about the sidewalks in the rear along Church Street and all of that, but not on 92, because unless it's our intent to continue the sidewalks further, what direction is that, east? Going toward Fayetteville, right? Is that part of our comprehensive plan or consideration? Otherwise, why do we have why do we need these sidewalks?
That's a valid point. We will look at that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Come to Mr. Davis and then come to Mr. Whitmore.
Yeah, I have one item for clarification, and also I have a concern, another question. In your application for rezoning, I went through your initial packet altogether, but then we've got another one for this council meeting, so I don't know if anything was added or taken away. But the application for rezoning, you're saying, I think you answered a question that the applicant is both Freedom Land Holdings, LLC, and Landmark Christian School? Was that your answer, or am I?
So the property owners are Freedom and Landmark. The applicant before you, who I represent, is Freedom.
Is Freedom.
Correct.
Okay.
Who would be the
So-
builder?
Okay. So Landmark Christian is not the applicant,
Landmark is the owner,
the owner,
but they support the application. Yes, ma'am.
owner of that parcel of land that you're talking about now that needs to be rezoned? Is that-
Parcel that needs the comprehensive plan amendment for which we're requesting the table. Yes, Councilwoman.
Okay, all right, so that's clear. I also, looking at the initial package, that is there an egress coming out of the development on 292, further down past where the homes are?
No, Councilwoman.
Okay, there's not an egress. So Milo Fisher is a dead end, right? So sort of, that's where their Landmarks Stadium, football stadium, is at the end of Milo Fisher. Is that correct? There's no-
Correct, but it's on a gridded pattern, so it also connects to Clayton and Grant Street as both those head north off Milo Fisher.
Okay. Outside of Church Street, where would the egress be coming out of that development? Or is that the only way they're exiting?
There's a, could we, sir, would you mind pulling up the?
And tell me where Pine Street is. How is Pine Street related to this development?
Pine Street is directly across 92 from Milo Fisher, but it's not part of this development.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to see in this aerial, but you see the new Church Street, the proposed extension? That's the primary ingress egress. Do you see and then behind that, you can see the shared driveways between these dwellings that connects?
Shared driveways?
Yeah, I'm sorry, let me go back to the site plan. It's easier to see there. That common alleyway that connects to the off-street parking where the mailboxes are at the north end.
Yes, y'all have to give us a break up here, because when you're talking, it takes away from us paying attention.
Okay, can you repeat what you just said?
May I approach and point?
Yeah, sure.
So, this is the shared driveway.
Right.
And here's the Church Street extension. There's a shared driveway here for ingress and egress. So you've got 2 points, and part of that is for emergency access, but this is the primary entrance in and out for all units. So you've got 2.
We have 2 exits or just one?
This is a shared driveway
Shared between,
between these units, but that driveway connects to the public roadway here.
I wish you had a pointer.
Yeah,
so
can you
Yeah,
describe for the
because
audience?
It seems to me it's just it's one way in and one way out.
Hold on 1 second. So, oh, I was trying to make sure the
Yeah,
rest of the people
it's,
can understand what he was just saying.
'Cause you
So
can't hear it online.
So is there one way in and one way out of this development?
No,
You have 2 exits,
correct,
2 entrances.
correct.
Okay.
The primary entrance and exit is the Church Street, because that's the publicly dedicated wide right-of-way. But there is an auxiliary shared driveway closer to 92.
That you can exit
Do you
from the
see,
department.
do you see that second arrow that's supposed to be pointing to green space on the north side? Further
Right
north?
here, where the 25, right here.
Right, that northernmost arrow is that shared driveway I was referring
You
to.
see the word space.
Okay. I see it right here. Right here. That's the second thing.
So that's the shared driveway. But the true public access is on Church Street.
And that's only one, yeah, that's only one. Is there a safety, don't we need to have,
Feasibility.
yeah,
So your,
92 again.
yeah.
yeah, and your
Problem.
staff has recommended that as part of the land disturbance permitting process, this is just a concept plan, that before we construct all of that asphalt, that there be a traffic impact study done that it is incorporated into the land disturbance plan, and we fully intend to comply with whatever the results of that traffic impact study are. So to your point, Councilwoman, to the extent that anything's raised or uncovered in that doesn't work or presents a safety issue. or
Sir,
egress issue,
can I ask you to please, thank you so much. Go ahead, keep going.
So Your staff has recommended a traffic study be done as part of the development process, which is a common condition imposed, so that the traffic engineer looks at the layout of this site, as well as the dispersion of traffic through that primary public roadway, as well as the auxiliary shared driveway. And that we implement as part of our plan any results of that traffic study. So there's already a condition, if and when should it be the council's will to approve this project, that a traffic engineer will look at this and that those concerns of that engineer, if any, will be addressed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones.
Do you have some clarification you want to add to that? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, I understand there's some concerns related to public safety, so we'll make sure that both our fire department and engineering will provide statements as a part of the consideration when this item becomes before you, if you choose to table it.
Okay.
May I just add one other
Yeah,
comment?
I had a question, I had a comment too as well. My question was gonna be, sir, before you come back to the community though, one of the questions that was asked, as I think it was Mr. Heath, as relates to what is the dollar value of the housing that's gonna be, that is paramount. So I just think that along with 4 or 5 other areas that's been presented, but please make sure you know exactly what the dollar value of their property was before.
Absolutely, Mayor, and I'm not the builder. So
Right, and that's why I say, and that's why I understand that you wouldn't know that, but I'm just saying, that's very important, so.
And then I just want to add, 92 should not be a consideration at all for egress and what's the other word? Right? They need, right. They need to either go Church Street or Back Street, because right at that area, there's a little hill over there, and the way they are driving and the speed for which they're driving, and those are accidents waiting to happen. So in and out off of 92 is just inappropriate. So I'm asking you to reevaluate that completely, that not be a part of the plan at all.
You know, Councilman, we're not proposing any entrance on 92, and we won't. But
You said auxiliary,
That's on Milo.
That's also on Milo, Councilwoman, but
Milam, not 92.
Milo Fisher, correct.
Okay,
But
okay,
we'll also look at that entrance as well.
Okay.
Well, it looks like we have a lot of questions and concerns regarding this item. Are we moving toward
I was gonna
tabling?
say, we probably need to go ahead and make a motion, so we can.
Motion to postpone it.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Wimmer, then we'll call the question, go ahead.
Ooh, too many people talking.
Go ahead, sir.
I want Mr. Thompson, if he would approach, please. Would you,
Good evening, sir.
your name and your position here in the city of Fairburn?
Lester Thompson, Community Development, Public Works Director.
Okay. Help us to understand, when it comes to sidewalks, what it is that you're doing as community development whenever there is new development going on in reference to sidewalks.
As an ordinance requirement, they're required to put sidewalk from property line to property line against each project frontage. So if they have a frontage on whatever front, back, side, sidewalks required as an ordinance requirement.
So my point of asking that question, and I'll just use John Rivers Road for an example, or look at Verlin B. Smith, where we did the improvement projects there where we put the sidewalks in at our dime because the developments were already in place, correct?
Yes. They should have probably been put in as those subdivisions were developed, but since they weren't, we put them in on our dime. That's correct.
Okay, and to reiterate, any future development, whatever road, there's a requirement to put in those sidewalks for pedestrian use, correct?
Yes, per the ordinance.
Per the ordinance, okay, thank you.
Okay. Members of council, at this point, I guess we really entertain a motion to table.
Motion
I mean,
to postpone.
Motion to postpone.
Definitive date in the future, January 27th.
Okay.
The next, second council meeting in January.
You heard it stated. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Ms. Hudson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And motion carries.
Amen.
Thank you.
The next item,
Yeah, it was.
approval of supplemental agreement number 6 to the PFA with the GDOT for I-85 74 interchange project. Request for mayor and council approval of supplemental agreement with GDOT in the amount of $300,000.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Trans System is the design consultant on the I-85 at State Route 74 interchange project through a professional services agreement with the City of Fairburn as the project sponsor. The Georgia Department of Transportation needs Trans System as the project designer to provide construction services on the project through construction. These services include, but are not limited to, the pre-construction conference, responding to requests for information, developing nonconformance reports, providing plan revisions throughout construction until final acceptance, and for post-construction evaluations. The cost of the proposed services are $300,000. In response to that request, the City of Fairburn submitted a funding request letter to the Georgia Department of Transportation to cover these costs, and the supplemental agreement is their response, their formal response to our request.
Members of council, you have before you the item number 4 that was read by the city clerk. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion is made, and is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Any comments or questions by council? Mr. Whitmore, go ahead.
Just reiterate again, that $300,000, and it's not coming out of our budget, this is GDOT?
That's correct. It's going to be a reimbursement, though. So it's federally, 80% federal, 20% state, all reimbursed through GDOT.
Okay, thank you.
Other question? Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Next item is a resolution for Land Water Conservation Fund Grant Program. It's a request for mayor and council approval of a resolution authorizing submission of a pre-application for funding from the Land and Water Conservation Fund of the Georgia Department of Natural Resources.
Hello, greetings, Mayor and Council.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are going through the pre-application process for the Land Water Conservation Fund grant. This email was sent to us by Councilwoman Portis Jones on October 3rd, and we kind of jumped in and started to see what projects we could assess based on our Parks Master Plan, which is complete. So the project that we chose is a project for Mario B. Avery Park. The reason we chose this one, even though we have some projects in the pipeline that were identified within the Parks Master Plan, is with the turnaround of this pre-application. We needed quotes, we needed designs. This project was already vetted by our former planning and zoning director, Ms. Tarika Peaks, prior to her leaving. So we had this project years before, and we just wanted to bring it forth. We felt that with the development that we have of our downtown area, as well as the needs that were addressed within our Parks Master Plan that identified this space as a space that needed to have some rehabilitation, that we wanted to go forward with this project. What this would call for is, as you know, is that Mario B. Avery Park is very sloped down. It is a highly used park space. It would be utilized a little bit more if we had more amenities, but is right adjacent with our senior community. It is also next to residential. It's highly walked. It's in a highly walkable community. So adding a trail, adding some grading that will allow for some of that water that rushes to the house that is right behind. You can probably walk out there during the light tomorrow and kind of see the water line that was from the last storm. So it would mediate that. It will also add some exercise equipment. So what we want to do is kind of reduce the barriers and add an outdoor fitness experience without the cost and proximity. As you know, we're always looking at ways to kind of lower some cost for our residents. So since we do not have a fitness facility within the city of Fairburn that is close to our downtown, adding an outdoor fitness area adds for, one, community, but also it tackles our health and wellness initiative that we have.
Members of council, you have before you a resolution, the Land Water Conservation for Fund Grant Program. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Ms. Jones and second by Mr. Heath. Any questions or comments by council?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So the plan was already in place.
So the drawings and the renderings and the quoting, yes, was already done.
Talk about the plan, you're talking about the Mario B. Avery Park or this application process with the idea to secure this funding to do?
So no, the Mario B. Avery project was already identified a few years back. Went out to look at different ways that we can revamp that space. Because right now, it's park benches, it's not graded, it has a very heavy slope. It is utilized by our seniors. It does not have any ADA accessibility. There's no steps. It's highly graveled. There's dips and rivets all through the space. So this project was looked at a while ago. We just didn't have the funding for it. Through the Parks Master Plan, it also identified a need to add some more amenities to this space and also amenities to our park system as a whole. Now, we have other projects that we would love to tackle in the future, but since we already had the site plan for this, as well as the updated quoting for this, it was an ideal project to go after some of this funding, so we didn't miss out.
So we only looked at that area because I'm questioning what would benefits or amenities for Duncan Park look like as well?
So we've updated Duncan Park a lot more recently than what we've kind of updated this space. The addition of the parking lot, the pool was done in 2016. We had the fields that were done a little bit prior to that. We have some other opportunities that we want to do and to add in the future, kind of redoing some of our baseball fields, relocating our tennis courts into pickleball courts, which was identified in the Parks Master Plan. But those are more long-term projects. This was something that was already mapped out, and we were able to apply for this funding, so we didn't miss out on it, because it takes a little bit more legwork prior. We were waiting to quote out any future projects until the Parks Master Plan was fully complete.
Okay, so with this park, I thought this was a dog park. Is it a dog park?
No, Mario B. Avery is not a dog park. We don't have a dog park in the city.
An honorary dog park, because in the community, that's all I've ever heard. This is a dog park.
No, it's a picnic area on the weekends. Our seniors come and sit out there during the day, but it's not a dog park. I wish we had one,
Case in
though.
point, we had a group of dog owners on a regular basis. We would meet up and walk our dogs there. For all of these years, I have thought that was the dog park.
So it's
serious.
So which also adds to our point that we need to kind of further identify other uses and amenities of that park, because it's not a dog park, and a lot of our seniors highly use that area, and also this neighboring subdivision and down Malone Street, as far as just walking through it, sitting at the picnic tables or sitting at the benches, because there's no outdoor space at the manor.
All right, we don't have a dog park, but we can add a dog park, right?
We can add a dog park. That is in the Parks Master Plan to identify space for a dog park. This will have a dog kind of feature for a water fountain, but that'll be about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Heath, I think. Go ahead.
yes, I think it's a great idea. I think it's needed, because the park there is just like, it says a park, but it's not a park. And I do see our seniors coming from the manor, walking across. It's convenient for them. For those that may not have transportation to get to a Duncan Park, they can walk right across from where their residence is and utilize that area. So we have to do a 50% match. So that's what, $225?
No, so it's a $900,000 project that we're looking at. It's $450.
$450 is our portion.
But that wouldn't come out of this budget year. So this is a long-term grant process.
Okay.
Once you put in your pre-application, they are reviewed through November and December. In February, if you're awarded, if you're moved to the next step, you go through the second application process. Okay. After you go through the second application process, you're not notified if you have been offered this grant until fall 2025. So this is something that would be in the FY '26 budget. So it's a very long process as far as review.
Mr. Heath?
Yes, you're talking about the Duncan Park. At Duncan Park, Debbie Mullis, which is no longer with us, she donated, I think it was $12,000 to put a dog park there, and so that's the only one that I know of that we have in the city.
Yes, and before Ms. Mullis passed away, and I left to kind of go to another municipality, we did a lot of tours around the city. One of the things that is still on my mind is to honor her with an actual dog park, not with a water fountain. And I did leave, but coming back, I want to make sure that we have an actual dog park in the city. We have a lot of dog walkers who walk their dogs from Duncan Park to Mario B. Avery. So having a dedicated space for that will be ideal, which is identified in the Parks Master Plan in multiple locations.
Yes, and so this was a grant opportunity that was identified, but the deadline was short, which required us to respond with a shovel-ready project, which Mario B. Avery is a shovel-ready because all of the pre-work had been done by the previous administration. That is the reason why this park is being considered under this particular grant opportunity, and for no other reason.
Yes, and we will continue to try to identify funding in the future for some other opportunities to redo some of our spaces within Duncan Park that have been identified in the Parks Master Plan.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a great, I go to the park pretty often. I walk back and forth, and again, the safety issue was for me with the slope. And then, I guess now I understand why all the dog trophies are on the ground out there. I didn't understand it, but and so as a result of it, that's going to be a great upgrade. So with that being said, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
The dog owner's gonna be mad.
The next item is the blighted property ordinance. It is a request for mayor and council's approval of the ordinance to amend chapter 53 taxation of the Code of Ordinances of Fairburn.
Hello again.
No.
Hello.
Hi, the item before you has been updated slightly. We did speak with the community member. I believe they also shared their comments to mayor and council regarding the ordinance. There was a slight update. We included the definition for aesthetics, but we also clarified that that is not something we could use for this particular ordinance.
Okay. That's all? Okay.
That's all I have. I've been up here a minute now.
Members of
Give me a
council,
little breather.
you have before you a recommendation for a blighted property ordinance update. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any questions or comments by council?
Yes,
Yes.
I'll start with Ms. Hudson and then.
that's fine.
we'll come back.
Whatever.
I'm trying to get.
It's not, it ain't official on the books yet, but that's fine. Listen, one of the things that the resident pointed out was the fact that this policy is requesting at least 5 residents to identify the issue or the complaint. We as the city need to do the heavy lifting in our community. While we want the residents to participate, we have to have systems and protocols in place where we are assessing our properties on a regular basis. So I would ask that at least 5 residents, if you're gonna put it there and/or, what else? Because what if we don't have 5 residents and 2 residents identify it? So I don't wanna slight the work that you've done, but I think and/or, you know, what will be the next resolution? Because we're, in this community, well, this is one particular community that we've talked about a lot, the Lightning community. They continuously raise the concern about their safety, speaking out about this. That's a real issue for that community. I did say when we brought this out before that our police department, community policing is very important for this community and across Fairburn, but this can be the model. We have to begin to set up processes in place where community members do not feel afraid to speak out about the injustices that they see happening in their community. I think this is a great policy, but I don't want just the community to do the heavy lifting. We have to do the heavy lifting on this. So the at least 5 residents and or what? Like what else? If you don't get 5 residents, but we know that property is blighted, and we also know that there could be some criminal activity going on in that community, and what? That's all I have.
There is also a provision that the code enforcement officer can start the process without having the 5 resident requirement.
Okay, I think I saw that. That's in here, right? Okay, I wonder if, can we point that back out to our resident so she can
Yes,
see
ma'am.
that? Okay,
Yes, ma'am. And to your point, if one resident just calls code enforcement and says, 123 ABC Street, can y'all go look at that?
Okay.
That's enough to start the process. Now, in addition to that, the code enforcement officers work in zones, and they do proactively look for blighted properties and other problem properties in that zone. So it's a number of tools in that toolbox. We wanted something that allowed the residents to do it independently, but to your point, Councilwoman, we need to do the heavy lifting, and that's why we have code enforcement officers with zones actively looking for problematic properties, as well as a single resident can call anonymously. Because of the concerns you mentioned, you don't have to give a name, they don't have to give an address. You can just say, 123 ABC Street, y'all need to go look at that.
okay. One more other thing. And this could be something that anyone, the attorneys can answer. I see it 5 days. We have a time period in here of a process, correct?
Yes.
When things are not happening. So when it gets reported, what is the time frame for the city to respond?
Typically within 24 to 48 hours. we
24 to
respond.
48 hours. That's it. I read through this and I did not remember everything I read, but that's in here, correct? 24 to 48
That is
hours?
our policy within
Okay.
code enforcement.
Okay, I got you. All right, thank you.
Any other council member?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Jones.
And I totally agree with the comments offered by Councilwoman Hudson. And I would say, why would we have at least 5, right? Because that's driving the language. If one resident calls and complains about it, why can't that be the standard? Why do we have to have at least 5 as part of the language? And so I would advocate eliminating the at least 5 or some number less than.
The blight tax ordinance, there are quite a few local governments that have that language in there. Every single local government that I looked at who have established this program, they all have that same language, but I'll defer to.
But does that make it, I mean, can we do something different?
We don't have to do it. At least 5 is just an option. It's not, if you don't have 5, it doesn't mean you can't go forward. Like the city administrator indicated, all one resident has to do is call code enforcement and they'll be on it.
Okay, but-
That's just a different way to get it done.
Right, but that's a conflict. And so if we can do that, why do we need the language of at least 5? Okay, so I would let's go for one resident can call and/or code enforcement can say something. Like Councilwoman Hudson said, that is our responsibility, and we should be doing the heavy lifting on that, not at least 5, because we want to know if there are issues with blighted properties, and we want to get on them ASAP. And I just think the at least 5 resident conflicts with the other options that are available, and I don't see why we need it.
Okay.
I think we can make that amendment without
Okay.
it being illegal.
Okay.
Okay.
And I would, Councilman Porter, I appreciate your point. I agree because there is no intention. This was designed to put the onus on residents. I want to be absolutely clear about that. We've got a really solid code enforcement division. They're hunting down properties if nobody calls.
No defense, no defense
I just wanted,
being
I didn't want the
necessary.
public to think that that was,
Let them finish, because I'm
the
going to
intention was. So I want our residents to know that we're actively looking for these properties.
In all fairness to code enforcement, let me just say a complaint I got. Actually, if my wife is listening, she went to a place in Fairburn, a yard sale, and actually the complaint was that code enforcement was not playing games with us in our neighborhood. And I said, okay, good. And so again, in fairness to code enforcement, they're actually out there, and it doesn't make a difference what part of the city they're in. That's the part I was actually excited about it, because the part of the city they were in this particular area was an area that those people that normally don't associate with issues with code enforcement, but it's all over the city. And so in this case, I was very happy to see, and I called Ms. Brooks, and she'll tell you, I actually called her on a Saturday and said, hey, I just got a great compliment. My wife called and told me that she went to an area of the city where they were having a yard sale, and all the people could talk about was that code enforcement seems to stay in their neighborhood. So they're all over the place, and so I just want to publicly say thank you, code enforcement, for what you're doing. With that being said, any other comments, members of council? Seeing it none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I have a
Do we have to
question.
do an amendment?
You have to amend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Move the five.
Let me make a motion to amend, with an amendment to remove the language.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're making a motion to approve this with the certain amendments in place,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Okay, got you. All
So
right.
that's what I'm asking for, another motion, because I approved it without it. So in this case, a motion to make it with the amendment,
To remove.
to remove
Five
resident requirement residents. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Yes, please.
Okay? Next item.
Next item is the capital lease agreement for bucket trucks. It's a request for mayor and council approval of the capital lease agreement with Terex Financial Services for the lease purchase of 2 bucket trucks for a term of 72 months in amount not to exceed $6,155.27 per month per vehicle.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The Utilities Department is coming before you requesting authorization to enter into a lease-to-own agreement with Terex Utilities, a Sourcewell agent, for 2 55-foot reach bucket trucks for the Power Department. These trucks will replace one 2011 model bucket truck and one 2000 model bucket truck. The 2011 truck has been repair-prone and has been out of service and in need of repair 17 times over a span of 7 years and cost over $50,000 in repair costs. Ironically, that truck broke down again today. So I had to go back and modify this. So that number is still increasing. The 2000 model truck is also beyond its useful lifespan. It is no longer a candidate for a rebuild because it's already been through one rebuild. For economical reasons and for safety reasons, we deem this truck to be in urgent need of replacement also. The new trucks will provide additional working capacity that is needed to maintain and expand the current power distribution system of Fairburn, as well as reduce the frequent downtime and maintenance costs of the older fleet. We were actually loaned a demo of the new Terex High Ranger model HRX 55 in April of this year. And our guys really like the operation of the truck and the capabilities it provided. I would like to mention this truck has an electric operated hydraulic system, which is safer, quieter, smoother to operate, less maintenance intensive, and more efficient to operate. The savings per truck over a 3.3-year period are estimated to be $107,160 per truck. Versus a standard hydraulic operated boom truck that requires a truck to be running at all times of operation. With the planned system reliability enhancements that we are in the process of executing with our expanded workforce, these trucks are the best choice to meet the needs of Fairburn. Being that it is available, the truck that we originally were loaned as a demo is now being made available to us immediately for a savings of $1,332.54 per month. This is a savings of $67,276 over the lease term. Thus, we are recommending approval, Mayor and Council, to enter into a 72-month lease to purchase agreement with Terex Utilities for 2 HRX 55 bucket trucks. The first of the trucks would be the demo model that we had before. The second would be a totally new truck.
Members of council, you have before your capital lease agreement for bucket trucks. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Whitmore? And then Ms. Hudson?
Yes, sir. So I see here, well, I'm interested in your thoughts on lease versus purchase.
So, and I'm gonna tell you this, honestly, I'm a buy guy. I've always, in my career, we've always bought. The cost of these trucks has gotten outrageous, and the benefit I've always thought of buying one cash, if you can afford it, was to eliminate interest costs. This is like a hybrid model that kind of does the same thing. It's like you're financing it, but you're not paying any interest on it. This price also includes the maintenance of the truck during that period. And if we have the truck for 72 months and during that time, there's things about it, we have mechanical problems or anything like that were to come up, we can just give it back at the end. If we decide to keep it, we give them $1 and the truck becomes ours. So it makes, yeah, I'm converted now. To be honest, I'm converted.
Well, that was my question. That was more of my driver, and but you answered it, so thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hudson?
This is for our linemen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We can only get 2 trucks out of this? How many linemen do we have?
So we have 4 line crew personnel currently. We have a available position that's being posted now. So as you know, they go in steps. So right now we have 2 guys that are considered apprentice linemen. They're not full-fledged journeyman linemen. So they're still kind of learning as they go. But totally we have 4 guys right now. And they usually work in pairs. So with 2 trucks, we could put a group of 2 of the one truck and a group of 2 with the other truck, which is what you do in a situation where you're building an overhead line, multiple spans long and things of that nature. Or if you've got like a junction pole that's got wire pulled in multiple directions, you a lot of times set up 2 trucks to kind of stabilize everything.
Okay, and you believe that these 2 trucks will be enough?
Yeah, for now, yes. I don't foresee us having to do anything else. However, it's a, in my opinion, a flexible enough option if we did got to the point we had the personnel later, and we did decide to do one. You know, we could always do it later, years down the road. We need to fill the position first, which has been a challenge, unfortunately. It's very hard to find experienced linemen willing to move jobs later in their career. So it's been a challenge.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have one question. When we become owners of these trucks, are we able to maintain them, or will we have to send them out or back to the company for any repairs?
So the great thing about it is Terex, the maintenance facilities for Terex is about 5 minutes? 5 minutes from the shop on Howell. So we could, I mean, literally it's 5-minute drive down the road and they'll take care of it.
Yes, but I mean, when we own it, I mean, while we're leasing it, that's part of the leasing price. But when we own it, and do we have the skill set to repair those trucks?
So our garage will work on them up to a point. If it gets beyond his knowledge, then we'll extend it over to Terex to actually do the bigger stuff.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item.
The next item is ratification of professional service agreement with Our Paramedics LLC for grant writing services. The request is for mayor and council approval to ratify the professional services agreement with our paramedics LLC for grant writing services in an amount not to exceed $75,000 for the fiscal year 2005.
Good evening. This ratification for professional services with agreement with our paramedics for the grant writing. Ms. Shannon was here earlier this evening to give us all the details of the successes for the past, from the time period from January to April of what they did with the grants. They were able to write for 11 grants, but we actually only received 2 at that particular time, but we have the promising, 99% chance of receiving the congressional grant of $1.1 million. We're asking if that the council would do ratification, or approve ratification for our parametrics for the fiscal year 2025, and the budget impact is $75,000.
Members of council, here before your ratification of professional service agreement with our parametrics, excuse me. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. Is there any questions or comments, council?
Yes, I
Yes,
have. So, given the discussion we had during the work session, could you well, this is effective December 1st, is that correct, if I recall?
You want it to be effective October 1st.
Oh, October 1st. October 1st. We're November 1st. Okay, so we're behind. All right. Okay, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But I would ask if, given the discussion we had earlier, if you can have a discussion with Ms. Shannon and just at our next meeting, let us know the priorities for which you will have her focus, so that we all know, again, so that we have the opportunity as we're out and about, knowing that that's our focus, or as we get exposure to different things, that we will know that that's our focus and that we can provide information for you and the team.
Yes, ma'am. Contingent upon the approval of this item, will give us the opportunity to more deeply engage with Ms. Shannon over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Provide that information.
All right. Next meeting, please.
Absolutely. I don't know Ms. Shannon's schedule, so I don't
Okay.
want to make a commitment on her behalf.
Okay.
She works with multiple cities.
Actually, our next meeting is actually next week.
Well, not that meeting, the December one. Yeah, that's an anomaly. No, next meeting,
target that
December,
meeting. I just wanna
December.
consult
Yes,
with Ms. Shannon.
yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other members of council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Go ahead, you.
Next, we will have the finance director monthly report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Work this, please find before you, I will present to you in August.
Can you speak in the mic, son?
Yes, ma'am. This evening, I'll present to you the August 2024 financial reports, as well as the September preliminary reports for 2024. Okay? So as we start on August, there we go. For the month of August, revenues exceeded expenditures by $3.6 million for the general fund. Year-to-date, the general fund revenues received then was $24.8 million, and expenditures dispersed was $21.2. As of August 31st, the city had collected 82.4% of budgeted revenues and expensed 66% of budgeted expenditures. Yes, sir.
I'm noticing that there's a discrepancy in the amount of revenues exceeded. It says on here 2.7 million, and then year-to-date general fund revenues received 25.7, you got 24.8. And so these are the ones we're supposed to consider, correct?
Which, yes.
You see right here what I'm saying?
Is it an earlier draft?
It came out with our agenda.
You have August or September in front of you.
There are two in there. There's one for August and one for September.
Oh, okay. This is September 2024.
So currently, she's on August.
Okay.
You're on September.
Oh, okay, so this is a different, okay. I understand now. Thank you. August, yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. So this is just a four-year comparison. I wanted to show the council of the total revenues for the past current 24 and 3 years back, revenues, total expenditures, and how much we were over and under expenditure. So in 2019, that very first column, you can see that our revenues exceeded our expenditures by 5.6 million. 2020, revenues exceeded expenditures by 3.9. 2023, it was $6.3 million, and for 2024, preliminary is $3.5 million. So as you can see, it's been last year was pretty high, but this year is pretty low. Next one is the month to date for August of 2024, and during that month, as you can see, our revenues, we came in at $1.9 million. Year to date, $24.7 million. And as you can see, a comparison of revenues of how we paired out for the past for the 4 years. I want to highlight, as you can see, your real property tax in 2021, it was 7.3, and as you can see in 2023, 2024, it's 10.865. Okay. On the next slide, it kind of gives you a comparison of where we are from 2023 and 2024. As you can see, property taxes increased by 36%, $387,000. Motor vehicles decreased during that same time period of August of $104,000, 14%. Franchise tax decreased by $358,000, 26%, and local option sales tax was $377,000, 7% decrease, as well as business occupational tax. There was a decrease during that time from August 23 to August 24 of $208,000, which is roughly 7%. And this here gives you a detailed listing of the expenditures by departments. In the month of August, there was a total disbursement of $2.7 million, and year-to-date, $21.236. Now I'll move to the enterprise funds. This consists of all 4 enterprise funds: water, sewer, electric, and sanitation. August 31st, revenues exceeded expenditures by $3.4 million. Revenues received year-to-date was $20.8 million and dispersed out $17.4. The city had collected 76.5% of the budgeted revenues and 63.69 of the budgeted expenditures. Again, here, this is just a graph showing where you are with revenues and expenditures over and under. As you can see, 2021, there was $4.4 million collected over expenditures that were dispersed. 2022, $327,000. 2022, 2023 is 2.13, and 2023, 2024 so far preliminary is 3.4. The increase in the rates in 23, 24 really helped with that increase. Here we are, month to date, where we are for August 31st. Water and sewer had the revenues totaled $835,000. Storm water for the month, $76,000. Electric, $1.2. Sanitation, $142,000. Year to date, water and sewer, $8.1 million. Storm water, $840,000. Electric, $10.5 million. And sanitation, $1.3. Year to date, totaling $20.8 million. Expenditures, as you can see, water and sewer, $643,825. Storm water, $358. Electric, $868,152. Sanitation, $149,681, totaling $1.6 million in expenses out. And for the entire month, our revenues exceeded our expenditures by $667,000. And for the year to date, revenues exceeded expenditures 3.426. Here again is a 4-year comparison for water, storm, electric, sanitation. As you can see, the gradual increase in the revenue we received in, as well as the gradual increase of expenditures going out. And that is it for the month of August. Does anyone have any questions?
Remember, council has a question?
I know it's a lot to digest.
Seeing none, we'll go to the next item.
Okay. Next one is preliminary for the month of September because we are currently closing out the fiscal year, so these numbers will fluctuate a little bit. But we want to show that you can see that our revenues exceeded expenditures year-to-date by $2.7 million. General fund revenues received in was $25.7, and what was dispersed, $23 million. As of September 30th, preliminary, we had collected 85.46 of budgeted revenues and expensed 71.55 of expenditures. General fund continuation. Again, we're showing the 4 years where we are. As you can see, 2.78 is where we are for the end for 23-24. In total revenues, we had an increase of $2.1 million over the previous year. Total expenditures, $5.7 million increase over the previous year. And then revenues over and under expenditures was a $3.6 million decrease. General revenues month to date for September 30th. Should be $927,000 of what we've received in as far as property taxes, of all of our taxes, total revenues, and month and year to date, $25.7 million. 4-year comparison, you can see the gradual increase with the exception of part of 2023. But we still have more items to book because we're not closed out for the fiscal year. Again, the city top revenues for the 4-year comparison. Property taxes, as you can see, $395,000, so slightly a little bit more, still around 36% from over August, but for over the year. September, motor vehicles, we actually down, so people are not buying as many cars as before, 4.5%, $36,000. Franchise tax decreased by $321,000, that's 23% reduction. And local option sales tax, last month we were in the negative, but in September we're in the positive. We ended up with an increase of 2% over last year. And business occupational tax, the same thing, we were in the negative in August, but we ended up with a actual increase of 18.9% over last year. General fund department expenditures for the month of September is $1.782 million, and then year-to-date, $23 million. We'll move right on to the enterprise fund. This, again, consists of all the enterprises funds, the sewer, water, electric, as well as sanitation. In September, year-to-date revenues exceeded expenditures, $3.1 million. Revenues exceeded, received total $23.3 million, and expenditures dispersed was $20.2. As of August, we had collected 85.6% of the revenues budgeted and expensed 74.1% of the budgeted expenditures. Enterprise Revenue Fund year over year for 4 years as of the month of September. As you can see, there is a gradual, well, in 2021 it was the highest, but it dropped down in 2022, increased in 2022, 2023, and 2024, we're at the $3.1 million. Month to day as of September, totals for all enterprise funds, revenues received in for the month of September is $2.4 million. Expenditures out, 2.7. So our expenditures exceeded our revenues by $282,000. Again, year-to-date, 23 million received in for revenues, expenditures, 20 million, and again, we're over. Our revenues are over our expenditures of $3.1 million. The next slide, again, gives you more details into each individual enterprise fund to show you where we landed for water and sewer. We were over we had an increase of 1.3 million over 2023. For stormwater and revenues, we had an increase of 44,000. Electric, we had an increase in revenues of 2.2 million. In sanitation, we had an increase of revenues of $604,000. In expenditures, we had an increase in our expenditures of $3.3 million. We had an increase in storm of 122,000. Electric, 873, a decrease. In sanitation, we had a $640,000 increase in expenditures. Does anybody have any questions?
Any members of council have a question? Okay, keep going.
That's all I have for right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is the city administrator's monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hopefully, you had a chance to look over the city administrator's report for the month of September. It's a total of 45 slides across our 13 different departments. I did want to provide a few highlights from that month. First, the work on the temporary fire station was completed in the month of September. Of course, that led to our ribbon cutting on last Friday, and thank you all for supporting that. But that work was completed in the month of September. The emergency generator for the city administration building is fully installed, complete, and operational. We had our Fairburn Third Friday's final concert of the year, which was our Hispanic Heritage Festival and Museum showcasing cultural artists, music, and food. We had over 30 vendors and local businesses, and really good attendance for that event as well. In the month of September, we kicked off our youth football season, and it is off and running. Homecoming weekend, I believe, was the weekend before last. Also in September, we had our youth council do city council presentations, as you may recall, on September 23rd on how can we make Fairburn better, make change in Fairburn from a youth perspective. We had our Senior Citizens Police Academy graduation on the 12th of September. We had 12 participants in this particular cohort, and they all graduated successfully. We completed in planning and zoning the housing market study and grocery store matrix in the month of September. And lastly, code enforcement is moving forward in September with preparing for their community service events known as the Love Thy Neighbor program in conjunction with the faith-based community. And I will pause there to see if there are any questions that I can answer.
Any member of the council have a question? Nope. Seeing none. Okay, I'll go to council comments. I'll start with Mr. Smallwood.
No comments.
Ms. Davis?
No comments.
Ms. Hesson?
Oh, wow. Y'all know I always have something to say. Kudos to the residents that came out tonight. I know it's a love affair. It's not gone bad. Keep loving on us. We're going to love you back. I hope tonight you were able to see that there was some deep dive into the questions that you all had. Don't stop showing up, and always make sure that you stay plugged in. It's been announced, but I'm announcing it again. I'm official alumni of the Regional Leadership Institute for ARC, RLI. We had a big shindig in Lake Lanier, and I did not leave the retreat area in Lake Lanier at all. I did not leave the building at all. And so I'm invested in this process, and I want the community to know that it wasn't just going to a training, that we now as RLI Institute leaders have project-based responsibility that we have to plug into the region for. Fairburn is a part of that region. And so you'll get used to me hearing that we're one region and one heart, because truly we have been left out for many things with the city of Atlanta that I am seeing now, and I'll echo it again. Mayor Dickens chairs ARC. So there comes with a level of accountability when you're chairing a board and you are mayor of one of the largest cities that's impacting the other small cities around you. So I see that as an opportunity to further engage and make an imprint with the city of Atlanta's responsibility as it relates to us and this water authority. Also, to the city attorney, in March, you were supposed to give us some information related to the water authority. We did not get it. Mr. Phillips, you responded in your email about the indebtedness, but you didn't say what our indebtedness was. We have to know that information. To the council, there's a big axe coming from the water authority that will want to put us in another 50-year
We're gonna,
contract with them.
Yeah.
We have to be mindful on what we're going to agree with moving forward.
thank you, Ms. Hudson. Ms. Jones?
No comment.
Okay. Mr. Heath?
No comment.
And then Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, just a couple of things. You know, you already mentioned, someone already mentioned the temporary fire station ribbon cutting. Very nice event. Mr. City Manager, back in September, I asked for reports of the minutes from the DDA. This date, still have not received that. The attorney gave his opinion, and I'm still waiting. His opinion has been out. On top of that, you know, you heard the citizen talk about the money, the alleged money that was missing. I never said money was missing. I said that there was $250,000 that was donated to the city for Citizens Park. That's what I said. And that was not being addressed, and that's why I asked for information about the DDA. I still stand for it. I'm still looking for it. Also, on top of that, I know that as of the week of September 11th, I know that the city administrator sent out his email initiating an investigation on me, use taxpayers' money by hiring attorneys to do so. I still would like to see that full report. Have not seen that yet. And also all the information surrounding that. I'm looking for it. I'm not going to stop until I get it, and I will publicly state what it was all about. It's all surrounding that $250,000, folks. Thank you.
Okay. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to thank our city, in this case, the temporary fire station, thank the members of council and the public that came out. I want to thank publicly the neighboring cities that came out, the fire departments and other agency, police department that came out and supported that event. And so with that being said, I just want to say again, thanks to members of council that was able to come. It was a great event representing our city. And so with that being said, Mr. City Attorney, we don't have an executive session, right? We do. For what? Okay, for
But what are they?
for real estate. For real estate. Members of council, can I entertain a motion to go in executive session for real estate?
So move.
Second.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Okay, we're now back in regular session. And so, at this point, go ahead.
It's a resolution, the option to purchase the right-of-ways to facilitate the Duncan Road project. The option to purchase is partial 3 in the amount of $16,925 and parcel 4 in the amount of $1,500.
Okay. Members of council, you heard the item read by the city clerk. Is there a motion?
So
moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Ms. Jones and second by Mr. Heath. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Who was that?
That was Ms. Jones, Ms. Davis, and Mr. Heath. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Boy, I tell you what.
Have a good night.